Hello, good afternoon, one and all, and welcome to the launch of the third edition of Enterprise Innovation Challenge. We are really excited to have you here for the session. And without much ado, I would like to invite Mr. Sanjeev Malhotra, CEO, NASSCOM Center of Excellence, IoT and AI, to deliver the welcome note. Welcome, sir, and over to you.
Thank you, Sujata, and good afternoon to all the attendees, to the fellow esteemed panelists and speakers who are here with us today. Delighted to be, here to welcome everybody for the third edition of this Enterprise Innovation Challenge. To give you a background, the Enterprise Innovation Challenge and what what COE is engaged in is basically it's an initiative from Government of India in partnership with the state governments and the industry. A fairly unique initiative that we started 5 years ago, and we have evolved a lot over the years and picked up different focus areas in healthcare and life sciences, manufacturing, and enterprise technologies has been our latest focus. And the way I'll tell you a little background, interestingly, how important this is. Actually, we work with a lot of life sciences and pharma companies, and we always talk about some of the use cases which are very much focused around those technologies and on healthcare and what goes on in the pharma world. We were told in a couple of places, actually there is another need that, how we can actually use the technology within the enterprises and some of the functions which are not related with healthcare and not related with pharma, give us some technologies which can be used inside the enterprises. And that's where we happen to discuss some of the areas, whether it is in finance, HR, marketing, sales, all the different departments. And while some of these technologies will definitely have application and some of it are evolving. And as part of the COE, we are always looking into areas which are a little futuristic, and of course, there's some of the contemporary technologies which have applications in different verticals. And we definitely believe that these technologies have a lot to add and shape up the way we function as enterprises. While we are no experts on it, but we definitely have a lot of experts who work with us, and you will hear them, in a short while from now. People are asking us question, what's the difference between RPA and when you add AI, and when you, how will AI change things compared to what's already been happening? And I'm sure there are good answers to this, and we know some of them, and some of them we'll hear from the experts and some of the enterprise and some of the entrepreneurs who are going to be joining us at the later part of the session. But I think what we do all want to do is, to work together and the ecosystem that we are creating and proliferating these technologies for wider adoption, for bringing out some of those use cases, jointly developing some use cases. Some of them already exist and some of them need to be further evolved. And that's what we want to do together, working with all of you and see how we can find greater infusion of these technologies within the enterprises and the different parts of the enterprises for us, as in India, we are really seeing some of the startups who are doing some excellent work, the vibrant ecosystem for younger companies. How do we make some of the great work happening in the larger enterprises and the smaller enterprises, make them work together and get the best results out of it. So with that, I think I'd like to welcome all of you to this session. This is the first time we are doing on this topic, and really look forward to learning and evolving this further together with you, and making this a platform of choice for most of the enterprises, who are what we call analog sectors, and be it any other vertical. I think everybody will have these needs. So thank you very much, and back to you, Sujata.
Thank you so much, Sanjeev sir, for excellently steering this inaugural note and also highlighting the need of this innovation challenge and giving the intriguing forum a great start. Next, it is an honor to introduce our keynote speaker, Mr. Pramod Agarwal, an inventor and product builder with 25 years of work experience in running large-scale enterprise software technology businesses. He currently serves Automation Anywhere as the regional CTO to advance adoption of intelligent automation in IMEA and drive outcomes on large digital transformation programs. He's an alumni of IIT Roorkee, IIM Bangalore, and the Ohio State University, USA. Thank you, Mr. Pramod, for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you, and thanks to NASSCOM COE for inviting me on behalf of Automation Anywhere, my employer. I welcome all the delegates and audience for today and look forward to learning from all of you as to how you are thinking about innovation in your enterprises and where we can work collaboratively together and see how we can advance your digital transformation agenda. So Automation Anywhere, interestingly, is a Indian heritage company, and the reason I say that is because all the four co-founders are Indian, though the company operates out of US, but it has sort of the Indian DNA in it. And we have been in this journey for RPA or robotic process automation for about 15 odd years. And as one of the pioneers in the space, we believe we have learned quite a bit about how to help organizations go forward on their automation journeys. So I think one of the questions that I am often asked is, when you think about automation, are you thinking about robots? Are you thinking about physical robots? So RPA, as the name implies, is robotic, but it's about the process in the enterprise. So therefore, robotic process automation. And when you think about a robotic process, you can think about simple tasks that you do on a day-to-day basis to carry out your fundamental basic business processes, right? And you may think about compensation planning. You may think about activities in a warehouse. You can think about posting data from Salesforce to create orders in SAP. So what has happened in the last 30 years, due to the work that a lot of our audience members have done in with the use of enterprise software off the shelf, with the help of building their own software, is they've created large number of digitized systems that the humans operate to get the job done, right? And essentially they are connecting these digital systems to make work happen, right? Now, what is automation? Automation has been there for centuries and centuries, and Greeks use the word automatons. In fact, automation was mentioned as far as back in Egyptian culture as well. So automation is nothing but mechanizing where human input is no longer required, where there is repeatability of work. And that repeatability of work you can see in your everyday business process execution on top of these digital systems. And when you automate that, while it seems a very technical, while it may seem automating a very simple part of a task, the results can be significant. I'll give you some examples to maybe explore your thinking here. That if you think about a simple process of raising a purchase order, right? And if you are in high-tech business, if you're in engineering business, you will realize that at the quarter end, typically all of your orders accumulate and you have a rush of orders to fulfill. And it is not just a data entry project, it is also a step in the process which ensures correct fulfillment. If the order is entered correctly, then the fulfillment is correct. If the order is entered correctly, then the invoice is correct, and therefore there is no issue of incorrect invoices and resulting delays in payments. So just this fact that you can enter orders correctly has some significant impact, not just on the order fulfillment, customer experience, but also your cash flows, because when you fulfill an order correctly, you get the money back on time. You have a satisfied customer. So the impact of automation goes beyond just the efficiency due to automation. And therefore, when you're thinking about automation, you're actually thinking about a digital experience that is fundamentally better than what you were doing before, right? If you look at a finance process, like let's say period close process, at the month end and a quarter end, and some companies are even shifting to daily book matching. This is a very complex activity. And typically, if you talk to finance people, the last 3 days of the period close in a monthly cycle, last 1 week in a quarterly cycle, they're extremely busy just collating, collecting data, reconciling data, just to make the books happen. Now, if you can automate all of that, all of your finance people can actually do their job better with better accounting entries, better books, better high quality reporting. But they can also go home, and therefore their satisfaction will be much higher in working with your organization. So it's as much about building a high quality workforce as much about getting the work done. If you think about simple process like, say, forget password setting, or a simple customer process of returning the purchased goods, if that process is seamless, if that process is error-free, then you're improving that employee or that customer satisfaction. You're making them sticky to your organization, which is a much larger goal of an automation project. So when you look at automation, I think you really have to think about what are we changing fundamentally from an experience perspective, right? And as pandemic showed us, every company is now an omni-channel company, because customers want to experience the company through multiple channels, and many of these channels happen to be digital channels. When you're looking at your employees as a remote workforce or a hybrid workforce, that employee experience needs to be of the same level as the physical experience of being together. Now, you can only make that happen if that experience can be transformed. And we believe that a lot of this transformation will happen when you put automation, where you're not creating bottlenecks in the execution of a process, and you're making that available to this customer, employee, vendor, whoever is your stakeholder, in the best possible manner. So I think this is where the pandemic has also created a shift and a massive uptick in the spend on these kind of technologies. And I heard Sanjeev talk about automation, what is AI. AI, you have to also think about as one way of thinking about is, if AI is doing prediction of a text, prediction of a sentiment, a reading of a document, these are all prediction tasks. Predicting fault in a machine. What are you essentially doing? You're essentially making what is predictable today through these AI technologies and automating it. So AI is actually a way of automating certain thing. And that certain thing is a human task like reading something, a human task like making a decision, observing an equipment to detect fault, looking at a product and detecting the quality metrics of it. So AI will contribute significantly to creating these automated digital experiences, right? And I think what I frequently talk about is that we are essentially entering into an experience economy, where whether you're a service provider, whether you're a product provider, your interface for customer success is that experience. And this experience economy, what I believe is that when enterprises take these foundational enterprise-wide automation initiatives, they're going to help the organizations innovate at the speed of business. And we've seen the change in the speed of business over the last 2 years, especially. And when they do that, and when they introduce automation mindset in their employee base, they're also freeing up their employees' mind space to do innovative thinking. So not only you're innovating and creating these digital experiences, better experiences for every stakeholder, you're also freeing up your employees' time through this automation to make them go on the path of this innovative thinking. So this is essentially going to then create what I call as a flywheel effect, where because you have more creative time available to you, you can do more for the organization to better your organization competitively. And I believe that for Indian enterprises, especially, I think the opportunity is massive. And if you look at Indian economy today, you have a large portion of economy, and much of it is export oriented, which is service-based economy. And a large portion of economy, which is manufacturing, that is rapidly modernizing itself, making it world-class, And with all the investment shifting from China to India, I think we have a unique opportunity to make our manufacturing also world-class. And I think when this happens, right, when your service organizations, when your manufacturing organizations that are building physical goods, they are thinking of participating in this experience economy through fundamentally better and innovative customer experiences where you're delivering a service of much higher quality, you're going to be creating that loyal customer, right? So if you think of a BPO can be doing a repeated task, but that repeated task is amenable to be replaced by a digital worker. But don't just think about digitizing that task. When you think about this BPO then becoming a part and parcel of the core businesses outcomes through the process they're automating and innovating on, then they're becoming that integral part of this core business. And when that happens, the value that you can create is going to be much, much larger. And your opportunity for a manufacturing organization, when your costs are lower, when you're innovating faster than your competitors, and thankfully India has digital skills which are unmatched. And we have proven that with a variety of India scale initiatives such as Aadhaar, such as GST, and such as many other things that are coming now when we see with the COVID. I think we really have that digital powerhouse, and I think NASCOM has contributed significantly to that. I believe we have an opportunity to accelerate our growth to take us to this $5 trillion economy, which PM has often talked about and we have a vision for, and we must achieve quickly in order to lift our entire population base. So I think with that, I invite you to this excellent day, which is full of discussions, deliberations, and I think some challenging activities. And try to think about how are you going to take these ideas and build innovation into your enterprise so we can together take this journey forward as a nation, as a company, and as teams and as people. So with that, Sujata, I'm going to return it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Pramod, for excellently setting the stage, explaining about automation and the multiple use cases on how intelligent automation can be adopted across multiple sectors for a transformational journey. Thank you. Intelligent automation is a new paradigm, helping enterprises, businesses unlock value creation and growth. An improvement upon the existing RPA, the robotic process automation, the disruptive intelligent automation paves way for future scalability of enterprises. Intelligent automation market is rapidly developing, enabling broad changes and ushering productivity and innovation. So to learn more about intelligent automation and its opportunities and applications, let's dive into the session and welcome our first panel. The topic for our first panel this afternoon is Understanding Intelligent Automation, Opportunity, Market, and Enterprise Adoption Trends. To kickstart the event, let me invite our esteemed panelists. We have with us Mr. Anjum Javed, Director, AI Advisory and Hyperautomation, WNS Global Services. With over 2 decades of cumulative experience, Mr. Anjum has worked in leading and managing large SI engagements and transformative technology-led innovation programs of enterprise scale for ITES business. Currently in WNS, he is leading the cognitive hyperautomation strategy and practice as a core team member in the Digital Innovation Group. Welcome, Mr. Anjum. We have with us Mr. Chandan Ghosh, Head of Intelligent Automation, COE at Larsen & Toubro Infotech Limited. Mr. Ghosh comes with over 20 years of experience assisting marquee customers across major geographies in their large-scale strategic transformational initiatives. A global award winner in automation, he currently heads the Intelligent Automation COE at L&T Infotech Limited. Welcome, Mr. Ghosh. Next, we have Ms. Deepika Sandeep, AI leader, Honeywell. Ms. Deepika is a seasoned leader in the field of machine learning. Currently at Honeywell, she is driving AI for smart buildings with focus on sustainability, automation, predictive maintenance, and optimization of operations. She is a recognized leader in the renewable energy sector and is amongst Asia's most influential women in renewable energy. She was also featured in Analytics India's magazine 40 Under 40 Data Scientist list. Hello, Ms. Deepika, welcome. Next, we have Mr. Sangeet Sharma, Corporate Vice President, Intelligent Automation and Transformation. Mr. Sangeet has over 17 years of leadership experience and a proven track record in digital transformation with credibility in delivering large-scale transformation projects in client-facing and/or offshoring environments for various domains such as BFS, insurance, healthcare, procurement, and supply chain. Welcome, Mr. Sangeet. And last but not the least, to moderate the panel, I would like to welcome Mr. Sumukh Koshe, Director, Intelligent Automation, PwC. Mr. Koshe is a Director and Financial Services Sector Leader for Intelligent Automation Practices in PwC India. He is a Chartered Accountant by profession and has around 18 years of global experience working for BFSI clients. Mr. Sumukh has been instrumental in designing and executing various large-scale intelligent automation programs across the world. Thank you for joining us. And to start the discussion, I would like to hand over the proceedings to Mr. Sumukh.
Hi, Sujata. Thank you for that. I hope I'm clearly audible and very much excited. Thanks for this, and thanks NASSCOM for giving us opportunity to all of us, me and my all fellow esteemed panelists to share about our experiences and how we can, through the discussion and brainstorming, coin this term of intelligent automation. So with that note, just to share, and I know Sandeep has already covered. Sorry, Pramod has already covered quite a lot. Facts about the intelligent automation, etc. So, just piggybacking on some of those concepts. We all know the whole automation era started in India with literally with a task-based or a macro-based automation, and from there going to a very intelligent and cognitive automation space. And through the next 30 minutes with various questions, we will try to cover how it has happened. But just some of the statistics, as we all know, this industry is spanning across around $35 billion by end of say 2027, 2030, growing at a CAGR of around 18%, and it's a massive growth, massive adoption. And what we have seen working with a lot of our clients, helping them to start this journey or at a various maturity curve level, that the automation has become a life skill now. So it's no more just a board agenda. Once we keep doing a lot of surveys. So with the recent PwC survey with the CEOs, almost 68% CEO surveys, they said that intelligent automation and digital transformation is it's absolutely life skill for them to survive. And this is across all the industry, not just BFSI, but it's across all the industries. And another 72% CEOs said that upskilling of their workforce on the automation technologies is the crucial for them for the overall success. So, I just thought probably, I'll share some of these things. While intelligent automation as a definition has been coined by Forrester, Gartner, all the leading agencies, it's basically like adoption of various intelligent technologies on, say, robotic process automation, and how you can layer them, augment them, and try to see how you can make end-to-end process digitize or transformational. So that's what I look at it. But what I will do is, as a starting point, maybe I will ask all of our panelists to basically coin this definition from their perspective, maybe taking one of the use case or one of the examples from their respective industry area to kind of simplify this term. So maybe, Deepika, maybe I'll start with you from your perspective, how this whole intelligent automation coins around from a Honeywell perspective, and one of the examples if you want to take.
Sure. Yeah. So firstly, thanks for having me here today. Glad to be joining this discussion. So to your question, Sumukh, one definition or the outcome of automation for us is remoteness. So the pandemic has made it abundantly clear that remoteness is imperative, and automation is an enabler for going remote. And as part of our smart buildings business unit, we deal with fire safety in commercial buildings. And commissioning of fire safety equipment in buildings is quite a laborious task. And this requires fire experts to manually analyze floor plans and place the fire sensors on the floor plans as per the rules that are defined by various regulatory bodies. Now, the problem with this approach is that there is a huge dependency on human experts for design. And this is extremely complex for large commercial buildings. So this is also prone to a lot of error when done manually, and in turn, it leads to compliance violations also. So we use AI to semi-automate this design and commissioning process by having an AI system learn and place the fire sensors automatically as per the defined rules. And this not only cuts down the commissioning time, but it also reduces the dependency on experts. And with this kind of a solution in place, which is enabled by AI and brings about automation, they now only validate the outcome of the AI system. And they don't have to manually place these sensors. And this simplifies this whole commissioning process for them significantly. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's a very good perspective. Maybe moving to Anjum, you've been serving clients for last 20 plus years. How do you coin this definition, and any use case example you want to take it, just to explain how it spans across your organization? Anjum, sorry, I think you're talking on mute.
Yeah, thanks, Sumukh. Am I audible?
Perfectly.
Yes, thank you. So thanks, and thanks NASSCOM COE for having me here. And it's a privilege and honor to be talking and sharing my experiences around intelligent automation. So without further ado, let me just start off with the definition of intelligent automation that we think about in the industry and in the industry that I am currently serving, basically around business process management. Right, business process automation. So the way we see intelligent automation is the ability to increasingly automate the tasks. And you talked about task automation. Now we are going further. We are saying we want to increasingly automate tasks by leveraging the combined synergies of an RPA-based automation, which may be for surface automation or very routine and repetitive tasks, using intelligent OCRs, using AI/ML, cognitive, using intelligent workflows, smart workflows, using low-code, no-code platform for democratizing IA and increasing its use and scaling the automations, and then of course cloud. So the way we look at intelligent automation is an approach to automation to make things as much straight through and touchless as possible when we're talking from an operations standpoint, and in the process reaping the benefits of increased productivity, increased operational efficiency, better risk management, and increased revenue, and last but not the least, high customer satisfaction. And now we talk about total experience, which is when we talk about intelligent automation, it's just not the employee or just not the customer. We are looking at the employee experience. We are looking at the customer experience. We are looking at the end user experience, customer's customer. We are looking at the supplier. We are looking at the partners. So we want to give a holistically good experience, the wow experience to all the stakeholders. Taking one example from one of the biggest verticals that is there that we are currently serving, that is insurance. So I'll take the example of insurance claims automation. And pandemic has posed a problem for the insurers of increasing backlog of claims requests, and that to be attended by the agents who could not be furloughed. So while the bandwidth is stretched thin, the uphill task is still to be able to clear that backlog and still to be able to give a good experience to the customers. Now I'll just take it stepwise, how we envision and how we envisage the end-to-end use case and what levers do we would want to bring from intelligent automation, basically to address the entire use case end to end. So first thing is anything which is transformational. What we are trying to attempt with intelligent automation is transformational. And with transformation, we don't say 10% productivity benefit or 20% operational efficiency. That is not transformational. Anything which is transformational is supposed to be exponential. It has to be, when we say benefits, it has to be 4x or 5x. That is when the benefits are realized. So the benefits of automation are not going to be realized if you're just looking at point automation or task automation, or maybe just automating a part of the process. So we have to have an end-to-end process view. The way we look at process is, have a process understanding and then trying to see what all automation levers to bring in. So coming back to the use case I was talking about, the claims automation end-to-end. With this use case, I want to explain that, starting off with RPA, when we say that, automating certain back office processes of data aggregation, data extraction, data collation, and data entry, understanding what is there in the policyholder data, and going to the various claims data sources, that all back office process can be automated with RPA. But that benefit is just limited to that. When we are envisioning the complete thing end to end, we are saying that we want to give a great experience to the customer end to end, right from the EF and all, first notification of loss, through to once the claims are settled or the damage is repaired. So I'm taking the case of a motor claims, wherein this is how we envision to transform it, right? Going beyond the power of RPA, just RPA alone. So there is a person who has just met an accident, and just to keep the matter simple, there is no third party involved. The person has hit the car somewhere and has got a bump on the car. And now this whole process of raising the claim, getting the repair to be done, this may take days. Now, what we are enabling is through an app on the phone, the person opens the app, takes the pics of the damaged vehicle, and then raises an incident in a claims website with the description of the incident and the pic. From the claims website, this will go to the claims system of the insurer, which will assess that whether it is any anomalous claim. Looking at the industry databases, it will see whether it is if there is any element of fraud in that, right? And these are the machine learning models at play behind the scenes. And then once after the computer vision models have looked at the damage and say that this is not total loss, this is repairable, then within minutes a claims notification is sent to the person's app saying that the claim is registered and it's a valid claim. And by the way, here are the options for the repair garages, and the person can select the garages, and then the vehicle is picked up within the SLA, and then and then the vehicle is repaired and given back to the customer. Now this entire value chain, when you look at it, we have computer vision, we have anomaly detection, we have RPA, and then to top it all, if we can have a AI-enabled chatbot to give that experience to the customer to check on the claim status. I didn't want to introduce a third party out here. Liability assessment and other things can also be enabled through a smart workflow. So this is how we envision things, coming down from days down to minutes, when the person is able to get the result. And what it is enabling enhanced productivity, better operational efficiency, increased revenue, increased ability to attend to more claims, clear the backlogs, and of course, better customer retention.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sanju, for that. And believe me, these are the insurance use cases we've been seeing with a lot of our clients. And to all of our, knowledge, I mean, I'll not take the name of the companies, but three of the Indian leading insurance companies in the general insurance space, they have implemented these kind of a solutions. So all these innovation is happening in India also. So we all should be proud of it, and we all should thankful to organization bodies like NASCOM, who is kind of promoting all these innovative ideas to the companies. So that's brilliant. So maybe I'll move from insurance to maybe another industry which is close to my heart and to everybody's heart, which is banking. And we have Sangeet on the esteemed panelist, which works for the probably top two banks in the United States. So, Sangeet, from your perspective, quite eager to hear whole gamut of intelligent automation, and if you can share an example from your perspective.
Sure. Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be here and sharing my point of view. Now, it's a great question to start with, right? I mean, a lot of people talk about intelligent automation, but what is the definition? And it varies from organization to organization. But let me tell you a personalized definition. When my 6-year-old niece asked me, Mama, what do you do in your job? I said, I had intelligent automation. And she said, what is intelligent automation? So the definition that I'm going to give you is what I gave it to a 6-year-old. I said, think of like you're making a computer like little brains, and then you are helping it to learn by showing pictures, giving it words, giving it numbers. And then if the computer like little brain, here you answer a lot of questions. Later on, it can answer those questions for you. So she was elated to hear that. And she said, wow, can I have that computer like little brain fit into my body? I said, yeah, of course you can. But before you do that, probably you should know that that computer like little brain is not smart as you are, right? It can only do what you are supposed to, make it learn or make it, you tell it. So it's not as smart as you are. And she said, oh, then I can use it to do my homework. So I think that's a innocent definition that I can give you, that probably you can tell to your kids and to your parents who are not very new to some of the technology advancement that we have made in our generation. Now, let me give you a bit more sophisticated definition that probably we hear a lot. So for me, intelligent automation is a mindset. It's just not a technology project. It's a mindset that approaches, combining different technologies. And we talked about some of them. I think Pramod talked about it. Anjum touched upon it. Deepika touched upon it. Using RPA, AI, ML, analytics, and much more to drive not just productivity, but also employee experience, customer experience, risk and compliance, cost savings. And today companies are generating revenue. So that's probably more like a definition for a CXO. But in a nutshell, it's a people-centered strategic transformation tool for me instead of just a technology projects. Now, to give you a bit of example, there are several examples of banking, starting with KYC, know your customers, where the banks are supposed to check the authenticity of the customers who are trying to avail financial offerings. So, looking at, extracting relevant data from customer documents using document capturing technologies, then processing those documents using intelligent document processing, and then using machine learning models to identify risk areas. And then you use RPA to sort of push those things to human team members who probably need to intervene and process. And similarly, if you look at loan processing, there was intensive paperwork that was there at one point of time in lending processes, and intelligent automation has dramatically changed that by extracting data, using machine learning algorithm to sort of be able to do credit scoring and then give you a final decision for loan. Or you talk about virtual assistants today. Earlier, the virtual assistants used to give you only the customer balance, probably from your account, and today they give you recommendation basis your banking patterns. So I think it is advancing to a level by keeping people at the heart of everything. And I think that's the important part. Intelligent automation is all about people. It's not about technology. And I think that's a takeaway I would take from intelligent automation's definition to begin. So that's my 2 cents. Sumak, back to you.
Thank you. That's so brilliant, and that's such a different angle and dynamic. Totally agree with you. It has to be a people-centric. The people should be at the heart of any digital and technology transformation thing. So that's thanks for that. Now moving to Chandan, again, being a veteran into industry, Chandan, serving a lot of clients. Want to hear your perspective. How you coined this, and maybe example or two you want to take. Chandan, sorry, I think you're on mute.
Hey, I'm sorry, it was on mute. Am I audible? I'm sorry for that.
It is now.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, NASCOM, and thanks all the panelists for having me in this discussion. Right, I think it's a great discussion, and I heard Deepika, I heard Anjum, and now Sangeet. I think great things are coming out from leaders, right, in the same field, and in L&T Infotech, right, the way we define is very similar. Again, it's a combination of what the other panelists said, but I would, it matches very closely with what Anju mentioned, right? When we look at any process, we look at that process, how we can transform it, right? Not only automate, but how do we transform it? And again, I'll take one example, how we went ahead with transforming that particular process. And this example is from a e-commerce and retail for a retail client, right? Now, one particular process, business process, when it originates, maybe it might be originating from supplier, it might be originating from your client, or it can also originate from employees, internal employees, right? Now, from the origination, point of origination of that particular process till it ends, how do you transform it? And when I say transform it, it is not only the RPA automation or automation, it is also how you are envisioning the to-be state of the process, right? Just as an example, we started with this e-commerce organization, right? And they had a huge problem. The problem is, let me define that problem statement. The problem is they used to get 1.9 million tickets every year just in the area of HR, right? All originating from their own employees, right? That was their problem statement. And they asked us, how do you reduce the ticket, right? And when we looked at their HR processes, they had close to 740, 750 HR processes, right? When I say processes, meaning the back-end processes. And first thing, and it was back in 2019 when the intelligent automation, that terminology, it was not very popular as it is today, right? So we obviously thought of doing it, using RPA by automating some of those activities, right? Then later we decided, or we took a call jointly, saying that if you just automate this RPA or the repetitive activities, it is not going to be a transformative for them, right? For them to see the actual benefit, they not only want employees to spend less time, they also want to reduce the effort that their HR department is putting, right? So they used to employ college students and a lot of these students who just passed out from colleges, and they used to employ close to 1,000. Their peak team size in the HR department was 1,000 just to resolve these tickets, right? So then we introduced, as part of the solution, we actually introduced a chatbot, a menu-driven chatbot plus a natural language processing kind of chatbot, right? Um, and the employees will be only interacting with the chatbot, and the chatbot is going to call a document processing engine or a OCR engine, or even a RPA bot as and when required, right? So employees will only be interacting with the chatbot. Chatbot is going to call the OCR if it requires to be OCR. Suppose the employee is uploading a document in the chatbot, so it has to be OCR, right? And once the OCR is done, it will play back to the user saying that this is what I found from the document relevant to your request, right? Do you agree or do you want to update? So he or she can update, and it goes for a internal approval level if that request to be approved by someone else in the backend, right? And most of the tickets that we have seen, the chatbot will actually call a RPA bot, and that's it. The RPA will do the job and then notify the chatbot this particular task is performed, this ticket is closed, please inform the employee that this particular ticket is closed, right? So that is where we were able to reduce lot of their time, to go to multiple systems and actually raise a ticket, and for the HR department also to go to multiple systems and resolve the tickets. And to resolve the tickets, they also have to go to some other systems to resolve those tickets, right? So that is how we envisioned and transformed that particular process. Again, there were 740 processes. We were able to do automation only for 30 of them, 30 or 32 of them, and that actually brings them lot of savings. Not only the ROI, not only the dollar value savings, it also has brought in employee satisfaction in terms of now they think that I don't need to understand all those systems. I just need to talk to the chatbot, and this guy is going to do everything for me, right? So, to complete the definition, right? I think when we look at any process, right, we have to look at from the perspective of transformation and not just automation, right? And that is what the transformative mindset of yours is, according to me, is kind of a intelligent automation, the term that is being coined recently, right? Thank you.
Wonderful. Yep, Chandan. Thanks for that. And honestly, we have also seen, particularly after the COVID pandemic, there is huge emergence of all these conversational AI technologies, easier for the customers. Of course, when it's ultimately it revolves around people process technology. So how these intelligent automation technologies can work as a layering technologies, keeping people at the heart, automating the processes, and try to see that end-to-end journeys can be automated. So this is something what we can now coin it together. Just moving to the next set of question, probably we'll just take a step beyond this. Maybe now as we coined the definition, everybody is curious to see like how organization can start the journeys, because we might have a lot of audience on the call who are in the beginning of the stage of automation, or who want to kickstart, or somebody wants to leapfrog. They are a bit matured enough. So what are the methodologies that needs to be used, or what are the technology, I mean, more in terms of governance and frameworks, etc. So maybe Anjum, I'll come to you in terms of taking your thoughts, like how you have consulted your clients in terms of kickstarting the whole automation journeys, more from a methodology and approach perspective.
So normally what we do is when we start off with the automation journey, in fact, different clients would be at different levels of maturity. Somebody would be just beginning, somebody would be, a little matured in RP and going on to AI. So I'm talking about clients wherein, they are just starting, right? And we have to chart a transformation roadmap for them. So we definitely take an end-to-end process view. First of all, when we go with a mindset that in a consultative where we understand the end-to-end thing. Now you got to tell me, where you need to, fast track things or make things better. So we go with the end-to-end view. We start with processes which are well documented, wherein at least the L1, L2 level process maps are available, processes which are standardized to a large extent, because then, automating them would be better. Process where there are a lot of variations are to come next. Then we start with processes which span the preferences when we are trying to prioritize the process to pick the processes which span multiple departments, right? Because when we are trying to take an end-to-end view, and in fact, when we talk about FTE benefits, which is like a misused term in the industry, the whole intention of automation is not to cut the FTEs, but to optimize the usage of FTE and let them do higher value tasks while machine does what it does the best. So even an FTE who may be a split FTE across that process, if you're trying to automate just one part of the process, how is the FTE going to be optimized or rationalized? So we look at the end-to-end view. And I took the example of claims automation. And then there has to be extreme alignment between business and IT, because it cannot happen that there is a CRM system which is changing somewhere, and then there is an automation program which is being planned, right? So the business and the IT have to be in sync, and the stakeholder alignment has to trickle down from the top, definitely. Change management, governance structures have to be established from the word go when we are starting off these automation programs. And there has to be a sponsor, executive sponsor, and there has to be stakeholder buy-in. Then we have to clearly lay out what is the success of the automation, right? There is a cost of the solution, which can be so many, which is development, license support, all of it, training. And then there is a benefit that we are trying to work out in our mind, that what is the ROI benefit that I get, so that there is a positive business case, then only things move forward in the industry, right? Otherwise, I'm good with the current system. So if you look at, what is the mileage that we can get? Higher productivity, higher operational efficiency, cost avoidance, better CSAT, lowering total cost of ownership, and then reduce risk, better compliance. All of this we'll have to quantify. And then in quantifiable terms, we'll have to measure the success metric to justify the investments in automation. So I think this is my view on it. And of course, when we are doing that end-to-end thing, we have to have a very detailed plan in terms of this is the process, these are the process map, this is the entitlement study that is done, L5 level process map, keystroke level, this is the volume segregation, this is the value stream mapping, and then trying to map the digital levers onto it, basis the type of the data. So I think this is what I can tell, and I think we should the way we should start is with a small pilot to see, okay, these are the top 3 processes contributing to, let's say, 80% of the volumes, doing some sort of a Pareto analysis. And then start off with that, piloting it, getting the stakeholder buy-in, and then moving forward from there.
Wonderful. No, I totally agree with you. It's always important to have a strategy in place. Like you said, and do a process discovery to identify the right processes, identify the low-hanging fruit. Then doing a pilot to prove the power of automation to the wider organization, and then kind of leapfrogging from there to the broader automation program. So while doing that, one of the core aspect is about having people, at the center of it, because at the end of the your own people, your employees are your internal stakeholders, and you need to see how this is all affecting to them. So maybe, I'll Sangeet, I'll come to you, and maybe I'll take your thoughts that, how in your organization, while kickstarting some of these digital transformation programs, automation programs, how some of the special initiatives or how the importance is given to the people that, they are, along the way while we are doing this whole transformation. Any thoughts on that, Sangeet?
No, absolutely. I think the attitude of your workforce as a whole would make a huge difference and impact to your intelligent automation journey. Whether they see it as a threat or an opportunity, I think that takes it, to a successful IA journey or a big failure. So I think the way I see it, when we started, I think it was very important for us to have leadership alignment at the top, and not just theoretical alignment, but have accountability towards the people, and not just around the technology. And then I think what we looked at is we identified change champions within our organization who would be the face of the transformation, who would pass on the key messages, who will do those pilot projects that Anjum was talking about, and become the missionaries of the success of intelligent automation. And I think then the third aspect that I look at, if I think about it, is the articulation of your intelligent automation strategy. It has to be aligned with your organization strategy. It has to be articulated at a grassroots level, so people understand that it's not a replacement; it's an augmentation for their jobs to make it better. And then I think you can't do it all alone. You need to bring in your human resources. You need to bring in your learning and development teams to orient people, not just about technology, but also about the leadership skills around change management. And then I think there will be people who will not be ready to accept the change. So you need to have transition plan. You need to have redeployment plan. You need to have reskilling plan with an engaged HR and a good change management plan. And then I think you can obviously scale it up with democratization, with effective governance around it. But I think it has to be a very structured approach, with keeping, and I keep saying that like a broken record, keeping people at heart of everything that you do. Very, very important when you are going towards intelligence or any technology advancement journey in your organization.
Wonderful. That's a great thought. So covering the methodology and approach and covering the people, now probably will come to the actual technologies and tools and platforms. So Deepika, maybe I'll come to you, from your perspective as a part of a lead for intelligent automation in Honeywell. Which are different types of technologies you are using it. If you want to touch base upon any of the newer trends from a technology perspective, which you have onboarded it, would be helpful for us and the audience.
Right. We use OCR and NLP extensively for automated field extraction from documents. So one example is energy consumption data from utility bills to analyze its pattern in order to make the buildings more energy efficient. And also we use AI/ML solutions for root cause analysis and even cycle time reduction in many of our manufacturing use cases. Chatbots are used for touchless and frictionless occupant experience in buildings. And there are many tools like these. We use immersive technologies like AR and VR for conducting technician training remotely. And also in very simple software development lifecycle itself, automation scripts are used for maintenance of the software solutions and for efficient debugging. Right? So, and CI/CD being at the core of deployment of such AI solutions, we use Terraform scripts. And so, so there are multiple examples like these, and we have quite a few tools which are available today for scaling as well. But the right choice of tools is tool stack. It's a task, right? So given the number of options that we have today, choosing the right tools, because it's a confluence of all these tools which makes it powerful.
Absolutely agree with you on that. And maybe, Chandan, I'll come to you, in terms of your experience of, any of these additional tools or platforms in the intelligent automation space, which you've been using it, while serving the client. And more importantly, what you have seen in terms of scaling up the automation journeys, because I'm pretty sure you must have had clients who are like 5 to 20 bots and 20 to 50 and who are like 50 plus or 100 plus era. So, if you can probably give perspective on both these things, that would be helpful.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I think as some of the panelists rightly mentioned, right, OCR or IDP is a prominent technology that we see being used, or at least we advise them to use to scale up, because the industries, I mean, almost all industries, right, there will be paper document, processing of paper document. If not paper document, at least they will get PDFs and images and so on, right? And OCR is being used there, and now with the new age OCR tools, which no longer work in the principle of layout, building the layout, right, or configuring each and every template. So there are new age tools which are in the market. For example, UiPath's document understanding, Blue Prism Decipher, IQBot, right, and so tools like that, right? So that means they can, they can actually, you can actually train the machine learning model. Again, the machine learning is coming into picture, right? That is one thing. Second thing is, we are also increasingly seeing the adoption of chatbot, either menu-driven chatbot or a conversation-driven chatbot. But that is also one of the tool that is being used increasingly. And we are also seeing that there are more advanced clients, right, who are coming up and saying that, hey, you know what, we have chatbot, we have RPA. I want to now, again, the same terminology, right? I want to transform the way they work, right? And that is where
Got it.
we introduce Celonis, or the process mining kind of tools, to understand the insight of any process, like which step is taking more time in the whole process, who is the bottleneck. When I say who, meaning which role is the bottleneck, right? And with those kind of information, you can actually design the to-be process with help of workflow engines, RPA, chatbot, OCR, all combined, right? So that you actually transform the way they work today, right? So these are predominantly the 4 or 3 additional levers that we see being used, right? Or at least the request is coming to analyze, right? Yeah.
Wonderful. That's really helpful. Sujata, just taking a time check. I believe we have 5 more minutes just to cover one last question.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe, so we talked about what is the definition of intelligent automation. We talked about what is the methodology and approach to start the automation in your organizations. Then we heard about like how you can address the people challenge of it softly and, very innovatively. Then we heard about a lot of newer tools and technologies which have been used. Something very interesting what Deepika said, using AR and VR for doing the employee trainings and then chatbots and etc. Now, probably one question, and maybe we can just do this like a rapid fire thing. Maybe I'll start Sangeet with you. Wells being such a matured organization, and the captive in India is also quite matured. You must have seen the whole journey growing. What's your thought? How you will, tell the audience on the call that how they can scale it up, because there could be a people on the call who have come to some maturity level and they want to do that leapfrog thing. Maybe in a minute or two, what is your that key message to them? How they can leapfrog the journey now.
Sure. Thank you. I think adoption of intelligent automation has accelerated dramatically, and COVID was a huge push. I think a lot of panelists talk about it. But I think the organizations are now moving from desperate automation to deliberate pacing. And I'll give you my 5 A's for automation that probably I have learned over a period of time. And I'm not saying those are the end of life. There could be more A's that you can add as we move on. But 5 A's for me is, first is ambition. You need to have an enterprise intelligent automation strategy aligned with your organization strategy. So you need to have a good operating model defined what would work better for your organization. Second A is ability. You need to empower both employee experience as well as customer experience by keeping human in the loop of everything that you do. Third is availability or accessibility, you can call it, making sure the technology infrastructure is made available, the cybersecurity is in place, and more importantly, data. If you're talking about intelligent automation, data is the important aspect of it. So that is available. Fourth A is agility. You need to be agile. You need to be agile with your SDLC. You need to make sure that people have continuous integration, continuous deployment built into the life cycle of everything that you do. And you know what automation treatment would work for what problem. And the last A that I have is affordability. You need to be able to make scalable solution so that people can afford, your customers can afford, and you can realize value and you know your payback period. And that is the way you probably will be able to scale in a much better way and add more A's as you learn to all these 5 A's of automation as we move along. And last but not the least is people. Yeah. Invest in people along with technology, because right people will make the right use of technology. So that's my last words.
Great. Totally agree with you. And just to coin the same thoughts, and maybe for the information of all the audience, we at a PwC, we are predominantly consulting and domain-centric people. But back in 2020, our global chairman has invested in upskilling all the people on the technology, and the automation is one of the key ethos to that. So automation and analytics are the two things. So all my fellow auditors, tax expert, everybody's getting upskilled and trained on that, and we see some exciting stories around that. So definitely people come to heart of it. Maybe Deepika, just moving to you, one key advice to all the audience, on the whole automation from your experience perspective, what they should keep it in mind while starting, upscaling, etc. Just
Sure. So in my view, automation solutions become powerful when several technologies like AI, ML, RPA, NLP, cloud computing, and cybersecurity come together. It's always good to consider using these tools in congruence with each other rather than in silos. So having been working extensively in the AI, ML field, for us, data quality and quantity both are critical for scalability of solutions. And more diverse the data, the better for us. And I would also like to call out that data security is a key consideration now, and these technologies should be carefully evaluated for suitability for various use cases, keeping these security aspects in mind.
Wonderful. Totally agree with you. Data is new oil, and we have to use that oil very safely. And of course, security is it's the heart of any newer low-code, no-code platform like the automation platform we are using it. So has to be at the helm of it. So totally agree with you on that. Moving quickly to Anjum, just like a rapid fire and maybe a minute or two, one last key advice to our audience on the whole automation topics, and what you will share with them.
I would echo with the Sangeet, on the people part. So technology is a means to end. It's not an end in itself, right? So when we look at intelligent automation, it's not a silver bullet. You got to understand what are the business outcomes you're looking for, right? And one key advice that I would give to anybody is that here there is a process, here there is intelligent automation. Am I going to feed it directly? No. Just think about it. If there is a process simplification, process standardization, process harmonization step that can precede, because garbage in is garbage out, as we know. So I think a process simplification or process standardization or maybe digitization at source, if we attend, I think a lot of problems are fixed there, right? So I think that mindset, if we can do some shift gears and understand it that way, will definitely go a long way in helping us to craft a proper transformation roadmap for processes.
We totally agree with you. Chandan, moving to you, from your perspective, one important advice for audience on the whole intelligent automation as a topic, what you would like to share?
Yeah, I think my fellow panelists, right, they have touched upon almost all the points. I just, it would be a repeat, but what I want to repeat is, I mean, when a business analyst or a process consultant, right, when they look at any process, right, my 2 cents will be to look at it from the perspective of end to end, not just automating something very tactical, right? That is not going to make us live long in the automation industry, right? We have to think that it is just not automation. We are giving you the experience. We are changing your experience, right? I think that mindset has to that when we hire people for process to play the role of a process consultancy or a process expert or a business analyst who will be acting as a process consultant, I think that thinking is going to take this industry ahead, right? So that client and employees, whoever is your direct client, they should see value in it, right? They should feel that, okay, they are not just talking about automation, they're they're actually changing the way I am working, right? I think that mindset has to be um, you know instilled in those people's mind, because they are the front runners, right? They are actually going to the client and discussing these things. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chandan, for that. So just to summarize it, of course, a lot of good thoughts from all of you, my fellow expert panelists. Just to summarize it again, intelligent automation is a life skill. It's a digital worker or robots. You should treat them as a part of your extension of your team. They are essential. We all have seen they have played great role in the pandemic in the whole touchless, humanless operations, and that will continue in the future. Of course, while doing that, we have to keep people and mindset at the core of it to see that how we can enhance the internal stakeholder, that your people's motivation, and at the same time how you can serve your customers better, and at the same time constantly reinventing it. And as I see that, starting from the whole task level automation, now the whole vision would be how you can do end-to-end automation, the whole company-wide digitization, what we can call it. So quite interesting thoughts, quite interesting topics, a lot of good technologies we talk about. Once again, thanks a lot, Deepika, Sangeet, Chandan, and Anjum for sharing your thoughts from your respective industry. We had a very good mix of two of people coming from the core industry and the captives, and two are from the two leading service providers. Once again, thanks to NASCOM for allowing all of us who are in the industry, automation industry, I would say, to sharing our thoughts with the broader audience. We will keep, I mean, from our perspective, whatever the knowledge is needed, we'll keep contributing to that, all of us. So once again, thanks for that. So with that, probably Sujata, I'll just pass it back to you for any questions, or if there is any closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Sumukh. And thank you to all the esteemed panelists for such an enthralling session. And it is great to understand the definition and methodology of intelligent automation from the lens of such diverse industries. So thank you all. Moving on, next we have yet another interesting panel discussion on decoding and encoding data utilizing low-code, no-code application. In today's digital era, with an ever-evolving business environment and need for adaptable solutions, the low-code, no-code technology is poised for transformation. Across industries, there is rapid adoption of this technology that promises fast development of application with minimal overheads of traditional development. And now let's hear it from the experts who understand low-code, no-code applications, the trends and the challenges. I'd like to welcome our first panelist, Mr. Ashish Masand, Director, India Asian ANZ from UST. Mr. Masand comes with 25 plus years of expertise in APAC, enterprise and channels, GTM strategy and execution, developing winning teams and developing scaling new markets and channels and business development, driving strategic alliances and driving substantial growth. He has extensive industry experience delivering innovative solutions for cognitive process automation, collaboration, digital transformation, infrastructure modernization to multiple sectors. Welcome, Mr. Masand. Next, we have Mr. Manoj Jagani, Head of RPA Tools and Platforms, Sony India Software Center. Mr. Jagani comes with extensive experience in planning strategy and spearheading innovation in cognitive, dynamic, and robotic process automation, software engineering, AI, and ML. Currently at Sony India, he works as the global head of global RPA tools and platforms, overseeing program management automation, robotic process automation, COE, and cognitive automation. Welcome, Mr. Jagani. Next, we have with us Mr. Naveen Kashyap, Vice President, Intelligent Automation and Services, Yokogawa Electric, Japan. In his role as Vice President, Digital Innovation and Services, he strategizes and leads Yokogawa's digital and cloud portfolio for smart manufacturing and accelerating autonomous operation. His expertise lies in software and industrial automation projects execution. Welcome, Mr. Naveen. Our next panelist is Mr. Sabyasachi Chatterjee, Senior Director, Technology and Transformation, JLL. With over 16 years of experience working in the real estate industry in India, he is currently the head for Technology and Transformation for Project and Development Services, JLL India. Mr. Chatterjee strategizes and implements the digital transformation process, bringing in innovative best practices to improve business processes. Welcome, Mr. Chatterjee. Next, we have with us Mr. Sachin Vijan, Director, Technology, Nagaro. Mr. Sachin is a technology veteran with over 20 years of experience with successful enterprise application design and developed across the globe. He has an unmatched track record of delivering business value by implementing enterprise solutions using multiple technologies like low-code, no-code, IoT, and advanced analytics to accelerate digital transformation. Welcome, Mr. Sachin. Last but not least, we have our moderator for the session, Ms. Amita Mirajkar, co-founder and CEO, Clairvoyant India. She's a proven influential technology leader and has extensive experience leading multiple teams and large-scale programs using agile principles with focus on SDLC best practices. Welcome, Amita. And with this, I hand over the proceedings to you.
Thank you so much, Sujata. Thank you so much for introduction for all our panel members. And I would like to start with thanking NASSCOM COE for arranging this, bringing all the leaders together to share the knowledge with the larger audience. And without taking too much time, I want to jump into today's topic of the panel discussion of low-code, no-code platforms, right? So just in earlier sessions, we saw how valuable it is. The importance of technology platforms in the realm of digitization, intelligent automation, digital transformation, and so on. So what are these platforms? So very brief introduction for those who are watching who may not know this in detail. So this is like, you could look at it from a lens of visual way of doing software development. How do you do development faster? How do you bring applications up and running quicker and make it easy to do so? So that's what all this is about. There is, of course, code behind the scenes running in production and making things happen, but this is a visual approach. So in these platforms, you'll have a lot of visual interfaces, you'll have drag and drop workflow, organizers, designers, and you'll have accelerators, out-of-box functionalities that could leverage AI, ML, or technologies such as that. And it would be very easy to embed those in your application. So these are these platforms, and the concept has been around. So if you have or your teams have worked on WordPress, it is nothing but no code platform in production in mainstream, and that was more than 20 years ago. So it has been around. Lately, this has picked up really good steam, and then there's very good development happening. The maturity of the platforms available is very nice, and the goal is to democratize app development. And the Great Resignation has also added fuel to the adoption and evolution of the platforms that business users can get their hands dirty and create applications that they want to create. So that's the background. We'll quickly start into the base, and I will also call this rapid fire kind of a question where maybe perhaps every panel member can take a shot and help the audience understand what do you think is the role of low code, no code technology platform in the wide spectrum of intelligent automation. So perhaps a line or two from your perspective. Maybe we start with Naveen.
Thank you, Amrita. It's a pretty interesting question to start with, right? From my point of view, low code, no code is a new business enabler, a silo breaker that unifies both the IT and the domain expertise, which accelerates codification of tacit knowledge into collective and participative wisdom. I think that's the key pillar around which low code, no code is actually being used, thereby enabling constant business agility. So simply put, it's a business paradigm where anyone can code and everyone codes. So that's how I'd want to really summarize low code, no code paradigm.
Thank you. How about you, Sachin?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Amita. Yeah. See, from my perspective, like you mentioned, I look at the business value of technology, how it enables. The main benefit I see coming out of the low code is for enterprises to, to enhance or to increase their bottom line, where in terms of digitalization. So their processes, their automation around it, bringing that intelligence around it, increasing the bottom line. That's what is my perspective on the first front in terms of low code platforms. The second part of it is, yes, it has been there for a while now, and it has matured to certain providers have matured enough where there are specific applications in terms of reduced cost and reduced time to implement those applications. That's where the second part of implementations are what we are seeing right now. So these are the two major areas as far as I see.
Thank you, Sachin. So Sabyasachi, I would like to extend, the role these platforms play across the industry, but also what have you seen, what kind of use cases, business problems are solved in your organization, in JLL, and this industry, has picked up digitization quite a bit in recent years. So what is your experience?
Thanks, Amita. So I come from the construction background. So we are mostly into real estate and construction facility management. And with the large workforce, it requires a lot of approvals and stuff. So each and every processes are built into the system, and it used to be like earlier. It used to be manually sent by email, and a person used to collate all this stuff and everything. So now what we are trying to do, we are trying to develop apps wherein all these processes and workflow can be triggered automatically from the LCNC apps, and this can work smoothly. And there are also many apps wherein we have to send as part of the service industry, we have to send many reports to the clients. And for those reports, each and every client, the requirement varies. So with the help of these kind of apps, what happens? You don't need to hard code the report. So you just can rearrange the modules and just set up those reports, and they directly connect to the data source, pick up the data, and then the reports can be sent out. There's also one thing we are doing, like we have been developing small apps on Power Automate and even dashboards on Power BI, and then people are integrating that with SharePoint. So you don't need external developers to develop all your websites and stuff. It's very easy. Even the people who are running the businesses in day-to-day work, they can just quickly make those things and just embed them, and the website is ready. So it's really helping us to turn around faster and for our people.
Wonderful. And taking the theme back to what we heard in the earlier panel discussion, people are the most important aspect factor in anything and everything that we do. And if this is making lives easier, jobs easier, then nothing like it. So that's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And Ashish, in UST, you get exposure to multiple industries, multiple companies, and you've seen, how companies have change leveraging the advancement in technology landscape over the years. So what is your perspective on what kind of trends are you seeing in adoption of LC&C platforms? Do you see any resistance from certain sectors? What's your perspective?
Sure. Thank you, Amita, and thank you, NASCOM, for this opportunity. So there are wonderful trends which are now emerging because customers have now been, there's been a wave of customer adoption where a lot of task-based automation and a lot of adoption of RPA, which has been happening, and pandemic actually accelerated the use of RPA, for example. Now what we're seeing as a very significant trend is customers are now looking at more end-to-end ways in which they want to digitize their workflows, digitize their end-to-end processes, basically. Now, when you're looking at end-to-end, the whole question is, how do I help in improving my overall operational performance for that particular process? So there are measures of those processes, for example, in some form of KPIs for that. The second aspect that we see is customers are having too many they're kind of bombarded with too many choices right now, and therefore what they need is kind of a very honest kind of a helping hand, that how would you help them really solve a particular digitization problem, basically, and then how can you help them achieve their particular outcomes. So from an LC&C perspective, it's playing a role in practically every area, because when you're looking at digitizing your process, LC&C can be used for digitizing your workflow. So you can have a workflow platform which has got a low-code, no-code kind of capability. Low-code, no-code kind of capabilities also could be there in your ML ops strategy, for example, where you're bringing in some kind of AI ML models, for example. You want to bring in intelligent OCR kind of capabilities. So you want a low-code kind of capability in which you can configure your OCR for different type of semi-structured documents or unstructured documents. So today, LC&C as a concept is getting what you call adopted and included in multiple technologies all across. The core and therefore it's kind of a ubiquitously being used very extensively. But I think what I see as a significant trend is there is a significant awareness now that we want to look more end-to-end, and that's where and we want to reduce the time to market. We want to ensure that there are certain security aspects and governance aspects which you want to keep in place, and these are the kind of constraints is what they're bringing in, basically. So and this is happening all across the sectors.
That's great. Thank you, Ashish. That makes a lot of sense. And I've also, seen that one of the recent reports we saw from our digital solutions team that they've developed about 100 plus applications across 8 countries with average time to market as 12 weeks.
Yes.
So that's significant. So that's amazing, achievement for the business to bring something to market and to be able to get feedback so early to make improvements from there on and so on. So that's great. Manoj, what are your thoughts, from Sony's perspective? There are different business lines, different, operating models. What do you think? How do you think this helps? And, again, are you noticing any trends across industries? Are you seeing resistance from any particular place? What are your thoughts?
Sure. Thanks, Amita. So we'll start with talking about the trend. So the trend, of course, is upwards because 5 to 8 years ago, we would not hear people saying that, as a business guy, I would say that, I would be able to develop this application. But now, in current scenario, we know that given capability, business who understands their problem well can also do certain kind of level of development so that they can sort their problem out. Second thing which we have already seen as a big bridge between business and the IT within any company that needs to be bridged by either your internal management or by certain business development team internally, so that your IS or IT team is aligned with the business guys. So I think with this kind of features coming in, we have a lot of capability lying which is within business can be further enhanced. Second, I think is important part is that you always have shortage of developers in your company. I don't see any company which is not posting that I would need a developer. I would not need a developer. Everywhere you have some of the other requirement of developer. So I feel that demand and supply part, which is happening on on certain cases, I can't say that everything might get replaced. But what I'm trying to say is that there are many things which can still be handled by business, and by giving them the capable hand to do it, I think this can really go through. And in that, I think biggest barrier which comes in, one is the mindset. How we actually switch our mindset from considering business people, not only the business people. For example, if your sales team or if your marketing team needs certain kind of customized development for themselves, and if we enable them to do that, I think that would be the first thing which we need to think that, okay, we are not making them tech savvy or technology, or developers or something. We're just giving them a tool so that their job can be better. Second thing I feel is that we need to understand that what are the limitations of these tools. We are talking about bringing in certain tools to do low code, or rather build up an application, right? So with that, there would be certain limitations because you are working within an environment, not how you would be working along with an IT team to develop something full-fledged or full stack. So that part is where we need to understand where the limitations lies and where we can leverage all of it within that boundary for coming up with a better product. And beyond that, I think one thing we need to understand that this market is growing. I think we are talking about in current scenario, it's around $22 billion of market, and it is ever growing. And then maybe in next 5 to 10 years down the line, we'll see more and more such things happening. And all the biz peoples are they are predominantly going to be in the biz cum IT people. So you will not see completely non-tech guy. It would be kind of pseudo tech guys who will be working on it. So I think we need to positively adapt to this kind of trend, and try to see how we can leverage the benefits of it and enable our business people to work on technology, at the same time solve their own individual problems, which could be solved better by themselves than by an IT guy.
Wonderful. You touched a very nice point of, multiple very good points. First is that, how does the org structure adapt to this? So when we say we should adapt, how does the organization adapt to technology and the value it brings? And of course, the changes required in the organization to make the right use of it. So I would like to hear from a couple of people, not just one. What do you think? How are the org structures changing in enterprises? How is CTOs, org CIOs, and business organizations working with each other? How are roles and responsibilities changing? What are your thoughts? Are there cultural, changes required to make successful pilot programs or successful mainstream programs using low-code, no-code technologies? So maybe, Sabyasachi, you can add from your perspective, because you've seen this in production, you've seen this live in action, and you've seen your organization going from low adoption to high adoption. So perhaps some thoughts from your side.
Yeah. So in my opinion, the business users are definitely becoming more tech savvy, so that they can develop all these apps themselves. But what happens is the CIO or the core development team, they still don't want to leave that control over the team. So So the transition has been slow. It's not that fast in terms of the org structure. I think the majority of the team is still on the development platform where you traditional develop apps and stuff. But then the new ones that's coming in with a lot of RPA and everything that's coming in, that's all on the LCNC platform. And I think recently, like, there was a process which we were able to automate, wherein there was like 2-3 different systems and they were not talking to each other, and we used to have manually, like, people like take the data, do some VLOOKUP or connect through Excel and stuff and transfer this. So now they are using the and what happens is, the moment you go to the business and say that I need a developer to make some RPA and stuff, they will come back and say, bring a business case and stuff, and it stretches the whole process. So when you have a LCNC platform, you directly just open it up to your employees, and then they can use it, and they know how their process works. The developers are good developers, but they don't know much about the business process. So the moment you empower your people, they are able to do their own tasks, and I think that is where the turnaround time and everything improves. Yeah.
Makes sense. Some more perspective, because this is a topic that will decide how deep the adoption can go, right? How would organizations change to embrace this, and what are the changes that we're seeing right now, and how do you think it should change going forward? So Naveen, perhaps we could hear from you. What is your experience as part of Yokogawa? What are the use cases, and what are your thoughts in terms of observation across the industry?
I think I would want to really extend or build upon what Sabyasachi stated, right? In general, in the context of Yokogawa, the industrial automation business from where we come from, most of our LC/NC tooling focus on enabling our subject matter and domain experts to build bespoke solutions that is closer to the customer or the field. In Japanese, we call this gemba, or where rubber hits the road, right? Without the need for sophisticated programming skills. That's the intention. By way of that, we would also want to empower our own customers or users of our offerings, who are typically non-programmers coming in from engineering faculties like chemical engineering, instrumentation engineering, electrical and mechanical engineering, and data scientists to automate the work processes for efficiency, right? Typical use cases that we have actually been seeing is like a kind of forced collaboration that we are imposing on them, wherein we are getting the IT teams to probably accept the proposals for buying LC/NC tools, and empowering so-called machine experts, the ones who actually run or maintain or manage huge compressors and turbines, which are pretty expensive equipments, to build applications on their own which track their health. And on the other side, we are trying to really bring in the data scientists who run through the performance data of the same devices and equipment, and trying to fine-tune the model that was actually built by the development experts, right? So these are the kind of use cases that we are actually trying to promote in our industry as a whole. And in this case, slightly code-savvy users can also write small stubs of code in Python, probably based on TensorFlow or other frameworks, to import the machine learning into the low-code engines and execute this. We call this the BYOML, or bring your own machine learning, that provides for need-based customization, and also a handle to bring in the benefits of AI and ML into routine processes. So we are already making use of some of these things in some of the water and utility plants back in the US. And then there are multiple use cases like battery management, smart building management, data center management, where low code is being deployed or is in production. Like Sabyasachi said, there is some resistance of the IT team, because they are no longer going to be the custodians of the apps that are actually going to be built, and then there are concerns about rogue apps being built. But nevertheless, the value of converging various disciplines together, bringing them together and empowering them in their daily work, which increases the turnaround time, or probably the response time, is a real carrot that's actually forcing most of us as organization leaders to really take a plunge into the LCNC world.
Absolutely, makes perfect sense. And there is this term called shadow IT. So where technology, when it is so easy to use, every other team will start building their own application and then start making their own environment. And at some point, companies can just environment management becomes a big task, and you need to have like a huge team to do infrastructure management, DevOps management, and so on. So definitely there is need for organizations to solve the problem through some horizontal and vertical teams, either a COE model or something like that, with some governance structure to make sure that there's not too much duplication, achieve the speed that this is meant to give, but at the same time, not cause duplication of work, not cause heavy maintenance cost, and so on. So any thoughts on what kind of governance that can be put in place? What is your experience if you've been through the change of org change to put right sets of governance mechanism to make sure teams don't duplicate efforts? Sachin, perhaps you can take it.
Yeah, so yes, I think Amita, you rightly mentioned one of the could be a byproduct or could be an advantage that the low code or no code platforms, they tend to, from our perspective, they tend to overcome the IT silos or the shadow IT. Most of digital first organizations that we have seen in their adoption journey of a low code platform, of course, we are talking from both the sense that is from the citizen developer and then the pro coders, or you have the development center around it. A structured approach that we have seen around it is that that also answers the other question where IT is involved. There is a center of excellence or an IT partner who who is a point of contact or a leader or a provider of this local platform. Businesses or other stakeholders, they go implement, maybe they implement themselves as a citizen developer, or maybe they take the services from the IT or away, but they implement via the IT provider, the IT division of the organization, which actually helps bring that streamlined structure into place of reducing the redundancy. There is actually no redundancy in that case. There is cross-utilization, because when you're doing these applications, there's a lot of reusables you actually create for your organization. A lot of reusables which can be used across applications. So that is another part. And that's where we also say the benefit also comes if you're doing let's say the applications of process automation or quite a bit of mid-size application, you would actually start to realize the benefit of low code when you have a little bit of a backlog or a little bit of number of applications that you develop around it to actually have a good benefit around. So having a governance model of IT and then other teams working along with them makes a very streamlined structure around it. The other part of the implementations, what we have seen is it is little more than agile in our perspective. It is, of course, it's not extreme programming. We would not want to go that route in case of business, of course, for citizen developers, but for regular implementations of where the developers are involved and others, there's a very close-knit coordination that happens between IT, implementers, and the product owners, which is the business. And because you see the benefits coming out very fast, the implementation cycle is very fast, the deployments happen very fast. So this close coordination is actually the other benefit that you get out of it. So I think the governance model should be structured around these two, where one is you bring your organization onto a single platform, or not a platform like a local platform, but a single way of working around it. And then the second is how you operate or churn out the applications using the platform.
I see. Wonderful. So operating model governance methods are extremely important. Manoj, what is your experience, Sony being a large organization, old organization? What is your experience? How was security addressed while adopting these platforms?
Thanks. I just want to, start with mentioning that before starting into or before venturing into any of these low code or no code applications, we need to first know what is, we need to first know what is the purpose of it. So what are we actually using these platforms for? Because we are going to be using more likely a third-party application or a third-party platform to actually host our internal applications. And when we are going to be using it, we need to know that, okay, what purpose it is being used, because then only we will be able to know what type of data are we going to be utilizing within a platform, which might be a third-party platform, or within an application, even though if it is hosted within your platform, what kind of data is being used on that particular application. So first is that knowing the purpose is important, because that will solve your what kind of data you're going to be using and what kind of data will be flowing either at rest or either at transport or at the transaction level. So how the data is being utilized. Second thing would be, which is more important, I think we all know the terminology SaaS or APaaS, like application platform as a service and all. So in that, one thing which matters is that how quickly you are adopting to that particular environment or particular application. Because when you will be migrating or when you will be moving into it, you would have already spent good amount of time in terms of migration, and then you would have already spent good amount of money into it. So you need to have a clear understanding of how you're going to be gaining the ROI, and not starting with maybe the moment I have developed, from very next day I will be getting some ROI. So there has to be a vision around it, that what would be your ROI vision. And then comes the the COE, or rather the governance part. So how you're going to be planning the governance around it. So as long as data is at your place, you know how you are handling it. And when the applications which are being developed by you or by your people, you know how that application is being handling the data inside your organization. You would have hashed the passwords, you would have hashed certain personal information. You would like to deal them with your certain data centers where your personal data is being stored, where certain other data which might not be internal could be utilized somewhere else. So all these classifications you would have done on-prem. But then when you go to the any of third-party application or go to the cloud, you need to understand that how that data is being handled in the cloud and other areas. Though we know, I think one of the study by Schneider Electric, they said that 78% of the IT people think that cloud is safe and they don't find it much vulnerable. But we know that even if 99% feel that it is safe, that 1% can bring doom to your organization. So we need to be wary about that 1%, because margin of error on data privacy as well as on data security is very less. And we need to ensure that when we are going into any of the application, though we know this gives you agility, this gives you a lot of capability, you can deploy everything so fast. But then we need to understand there are certain cons also, and if they are handled or tackled properly, you will be able to move faster. For example, how the security risks are being handled, because if it is going into third party, your liability is not on you, but it is segregated. You have liability on your side as well as on the third party application. So how the security is being handled over there, certain level of customization might not be available. So you lose on that flexibility when you're doing it with the any other application. So that customization might go. Also, it might not be platform agnostic. So when I say platform agnostic, you might have developed something here, but tomorrow you might want to change your mind that, maybe I would be using this platform from a while, but now new technology has come, and that is like, a lot of things are happening and that's why let me move in over there. But then this application is developed for this particular platform. Can you move it onto that? How much effort would it require, or do you need to start scratch? So all these things also needs to be first planned. And that is why you need to have a centralized team who looks into all these things, your vision, your purpose, your data privacy and security, and then how future lies with if this application is no longer going to be there. So you need to cover all these aspects, and that can happen only when you have a centralized governance team or center of excellence, in case you want to call it. And that should be taking care of all the aspects of how you're going to be handling the first step towards the low code or no code application.
Wonderful. So we covered, in addition to how the security can be handled, needs to be handled, we also covered limitations again. So what are your thoughts on which applications should still be built using traditional application platform technologies, and which applications should or must go to low code no code solutions?
I think if we start with the first thing would be is that if we know what problem we are trying to solve, we should just not go that everybody is going into low code no code application and everybody is going with their own vision, and we should also go. We should have like I said, purpose. What problem are we trying to actually solve? If we have clear objective that okay, I'm using this for this, I just don't want to go into it because everybody is going. I have a purpose that okay, I would be solving just a simple example, purchase orders. Every company will be having different set of purchase order, process. Though more or less at an outset it might look same, but then every company will have some or the other things which would be different. And in fact, within company also, you will have different set of purchase orders being created by different, organizations within company. And something would be required for European region, something would be required for China, something would be required towards the US area, and how you're going to be tackling those. So that would be a first thing that, do you have a clear, problem statement? And are you able to align your goals and objectives towards that problem statement? Then you take the next step. And I think, starting slow and starting a step by step would be a better way to actually approach it. It should not happen that, we are going with a huge investment, multi-million investment, and we're going to get this nice platform, nice cloud system, and then everything is going to be there. But then we kind of say that, okay, our mid-range plan was that within 3 years, we will get this much of ROI. But then when we start off, like, in the initial set of the meeting itself, we heard that many businesses might be reluctant to come into it or give their problems to us, right? So in that case itself, you would be stuck. So first thing is that gather the, or rather kind of create a repository of all your problem statements or all your problems which you want to solve, and prioritize it with that, which is going with the, which is the, like, low hanging fruit. Rather you put it like, okay, low, medium, high, and whatever is your priority high, you can prioritizes more, and then whatever is low, you can prioritize it later. And along with that, you also need to think about that while you have prioritized your movement or your migration into a particular application to solve your problem, do you understand that this prioritization may give benefit after a certain period of time? It cannot be that the next day you went into to an application, and then that application is giving you some benefit at the very next day. There would be a lot of customizations required at your own level, and with a lot of trial and error, you will be able to coming into a model which we would say that okay, now it might be stabilized. So your thought process more would go more towards that, how you want to achieve it with your short-term goal, your mid-term goal, and long-term goal. Create a repository of all your problems, or rather all your things which you want to be considering it for it. Have a central discussion that how you are going to be migrating it in your short-term goal, and then go with the iterated items which are your priority 1, 2, 3, and then move on slowly with it. And try to think of ROI more from the non-tangible point of view. See, there are certain ROIs which you always look from the dollar value point of view, but then there are ROIs from the quality point of view, from efficiency point of view, from cost point of view, that how much are you actually going to be saving on that area by bringing these things up. So look from that initially, and once you have full-fledged work happening through the low-code platform, then I think you can start working on your dollar value ROI as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Makes a lot of sense. Goes back to, following the best practices for change management, for program management, and also brings back the value of, let's not bypass architects. So architects are around to actually understand the problem and help put a solution together and give a judgment of, is this the right technology to solve this problem or not? Or, what needs to be considered as a trade-off, and so on. So they're very, very good points. This reminds me of an experience. Someone from one of very large transportation companies came to us recently, not 6 months ago, and they had an application to show dashboard of, scheduling to their leaders, and it was built using a low-code platform. It was showing dashboards on the phone screen, small phone screen. The leaders liked the idea, but they said, change how it looks, So the team came to us saying, we need to change how it looks and we need to beautify this, without having understanding of what kind of data is being shown, how often it changes, what do users want to see, what do leaders want to see. Goes back to the basics of user experience design, human computer, interface, best practices, and so on. So it was very interesting interaction with them, because the ones who built were freelancers, gig economy, and they were not around. The ones who were speaking to us did not know a thing about how is code base even deployed. Going back to following those best practices of involving the right people, making sure we understand the problem first, we understand how to solve, what are various ways of solving, and picking the right way of solving it, and then going step by step. So very well summarized, Manoj. Totally relate to this. With this, I would like to go towards customer experience or user experience. How easy is it to make CX changes on these platforms, other than, of course, the color salon, but navigation changes, workflow changes? How easy is it? What do you think? Perhaps Ashish, you can shed some light. What is your experience on this?
Well, most of the popular technologies which we have right now on the low code, no code approach and the strategy and that particular concept being used, you find that there are certain possibilities to create customized UIs. Now, every customer has a very different kind of a UI need, and therefore we have a concept called design for happiness in our company, and that design for happiness is about giving that happy path to the customer and giving that excellent customer experience to the customer, basically. So from that perspective, when you are designing actually application, let it be a small, medium, or a large application using a LCNC approach, you basically have to look at a great user experience throughout the customer life cycle. So one of the most successful areas which we have seen customers having a wow is where you have been able to give that good UI based experience, and that's what I think is one.
Did we lose Ashish? All right, while we wait for him, Sachin, would you like to add on this? What are your thoughts?
Yes. So I have a very a different take onto it, and of course, from the experience that you quoted, I could relate to that. These platforms are built to a certain extent in a fashion that they provide quite a cutting edge, not cutting edge, but at least much above standard user experience. Yet again, if you're looking at the customization where you might have a specific need, a very niche need, that's what I would say, is something that you have to vary about in those terms, in terms of implementing it to your application. So when we're talking about customer experience, the customers for your applications could be your internal stakeholders, the customers could be your partners, and the customers could be your end customers as well. Now, when we are going to the end customer on an open, large audience, of course, you have to have, it's a branding of your organization. It's the way you represent your organization. So there are a lot of, collaterals in terms of marketing, how you brand it, how you, want to represent yourself. So those aspects could be taken care around by something that is theming of your application, which is like relatively easy. But when you're talking about, let's say, I want to have an advanced report. I want to have a report which has, let's say, Gantt charts, and then it's grouping, and then there's multiple level of drill downs and, whatnot in the world, right? So in that sense, you have to be a little wary that, you're trying to use a certain ecosystem like Manoj mentioned, and capitalizing on it to build on something that can be utilized for your needs. In that case, I would say you have to be a little wary, because you might, you might nullify the benefits that you're getting out of the low code, because it's not that it might be possible as well, but you might be spending too much time doing that and not realizing the potential of that rapid pace and development around it. So certain things that you have to be wary around in terms of, so user experience is one, that there are other things that you have to be a little diligent around, but yes, that's one of it.
And we have to see how do UX leaders, like this, and what are their thoughts on, which cases. I guess this is most popular in prototypes,
Yes.
no matter even if the application is complex. So
What-
that's.
So
Go
what
ahead,
we
go ahead,
do
sir.
in that case is, yes, I think just adding to that idea, whenever we are doing a user experience around a low-code implementation, of course, our construct of team has to have a UX around in that team. But the UX also has to go back to the architect in terms of feasibility. Of course, taking the requirements and then, validating the user experience with the architect or the lead of whoever is, implementing or developing that application, that whether it is possible or is it overkill here. So one level of validation, I think, really helps.
That's great. That's great. Another question, again related to adoption and enterprises, large enterprises. How do these apps? What is the maturity level for these platforms to integrate with the rest of the ecosystem? You have other, system of truth, other systems, other applications to talk to. There's concept of micro front-end architecture, where multiple micro applications could be hosted on the same portal. How do these applications integrate with the rest of the ecosystem in large organizations where different technologies are used, different programming languages are used, different deployment methods are used, and hosting environments are used? So any thoughts on that? Who would like to? Yeah, please, Ashish.
Sure. Thank you. So, see, today, what you will find is that I'm sorry for getting disconnected. My internet was slightly unstable that time. I was actually coming to integration point at that particular point of time. So one of the most important aspects is about being ability to talk to multiple systems. Now, you could have, we have seen very large enterprise clients having even mainframes also, legacy systems. Okay. Now, and in some places you have all the new age technologies, it's a hybrid environment and so on and so forth. You have the commercial off-the-shelf kind of ERP applications, CRM applications, and so on and so forth. And on the other side, you have a lot of homegrown, home-developed kind of applications. So your ability to integrate with them requires that there needs to be adapters which are commercial off-the-shelf kind of adapters which are built in. Number one, within the platforms, so that your ability to connect, do a data, what you call interaction or a data ingestion from to and from bidirectionally between the applications and the apps which you are building in. That's one part of it. And then secondly, you need to also have an API development capability within the LCLC platform, that if you were to expose the APIs of the apps which you develop for some other applications to consume, you should have a SDK kind of an approach. And we've seen that very successfully being taken by the customers, because most of the customers have a combination of multiple types of applications. So many are commercial off the shelf, and many are homegrown, and many are legacy itself, basically. That's one. The second aspect which we see is there are challenges, because even there in the commercial off the shelf, there are multiple ways you can integrate to the system. So the cost of creating those interfaces becomes very expensive. So you need to find out various methods. So for example, we have developed 2 or 3 very unique methods to integrate. And we have very successfully deployed it in very large customer environments in the retail sector, in the healthcare sector, and so on and so forth. So it becomes very, and that's where you also find a combination of new age and legacy both, basically. So it's very, very, imperative to have a connector and an API SDK kind of an approach, basically. Combination of that.
Wonderful, wonderful. Very well said, Ashish. Also, it is very important to think about post deployment, post the rapid first build. How do we maintain this? How do we monitor this? How do we stay ahead of the curve? Set up dashboards, alerting systems, and all of that in order to identify and fix problems ahead of time, and not let customer experience suffer. Maintain the SLAs and all of that. So in large organizations, that also is a challenge that needs to be solved. Bringing different architects together and bringing also department heads together to change whether technology needs to change, people responsibilities need to change, or how it needs to be done. So great discussion. I'm very happy. Thank you guys for sharing. I would like to make the next question a little difficult. I know you all have seen this. You all have seen the custom ways of doing things, hard ways where you have to stand up application. You have to have core developers sit down and take weeks and months. And you have seen this where a business user can stand up application in a week's time and start selling their things online. So in this whole journey, you've also seen challenges for adoption of these platforms. I would like each one of you to summarize just one problem that you've seen and how to avoid it. If someone is starting today, how do we avoid that problem that you saw was the most important problem? So 1 point from each person would be really great for all the audience, everyone who's listening in and who's thinking of starting on a low code, no code journey. Maybe we start with Sabyasachi.
Thanks, Amita. So I think the biggest thing is data integrity. You may develop, apps, and I think what Ashish mentioned about, 3 types of apps being there. One's legacy, the ones that are commercial off the shelf, and then you have those that are, homegrown. So all these apps need to maintain the data integrity at the back end, because tomorrow one app might be changed and another might be brought in. It might be on a LC platform, or it might be something new, some new technology might come. So the biggest problem that we faced was data integrity, and how can we go forward and use that data in future. It should not happen that once we change the app, then the data becomes useless. So how do you interconnect the data and maintain the integrity of the data?
Wonderful, very well said. Thank you, Sabyasachi. Naveen, what do you think?
Yeah, I would take a cultural angle to this because I think much has been said about the technologies and complexities and choices that we actually do make in terms of the platform. But what is really key is we need to really look at the introduction of LC&C from a longer horizon. Look at it as a knowledge management project that we are trying to really implement, right? Because ultimately, in a knowledge economy, larger companies at least, knowledge is traditionally believed to be power, right? And there is a tendency for people to hoard knowledge. Because LC&C actually challenges this paradigm, right? And trying to really democratize the overall process of creating value of business by sharing and bringing one's knowledge to the table without hoarding. So how do you really incentivize knowledge management? How do you really incentivize knowledge sharing? And look at building a culture that nurtures KM and change management is something that we need to have in place before we try to talk about bringing in any LC&C technology or platform into the organization spectrum. So I want to keep my answers short with that part.
Thank you, Naveen. Ashish, how about you? You're on mute, Ashish.
Sorry. Yeah. So I see LC, low code, no code as a very, very great opportunity to complement the core systems today that we have. Okay. And it will always be, it will never replace the core systems, definitely not. And whether it's a small, medium, or a large enterprise, they will always be complementing to what core systems and the associated processes around that and activities around that, basically. Now, and as I think Naveen rightly said, one is the cultural part, very, very crucial, and I fully agree to that. The second is that when you have a large slowly growing landscape of applications developed using the low code, no code approach, being able to manage, govern, monitor, and then ensure that your data security is being maintained, your data governance is being maintained, and so on and so forth is very, very crucial. So I think there will be, over times to come, there will be multiple small applications which will be built, which will meet the needs, which will complement the core systems basically. But at the end of the day, you will have to do a management of that very, very closely. And say, for example, you have core system support, and alongside with that, maybe you have 50 applications, then you have to really manage them effectively. And management not only involves just doing the monitoring aspects and so on and so forth, but also bringing change management aspects, how they are interacting with different customer experiences. Is it meant for internal? How is it impact? If it is both internal and external facing application, for example, how does it roll out? How your data is being protected, and so on and so forth. So there are multiple aspects basically. So I think the governance part of that is going to be equally very crucial as one of the biggest challenges as the what you call the LC low code, no code kind of application farm keeps on growing in future.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for covering another important pillar. Sachin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, yes, the question was quite easy till the time you said only mention one of the challenges. So, okay, so I think, yes, I would, say that adoption of a platform, that is one of the challenge I would lay out, which is some organizations I've seen that they do too much of a diligence where they have too much of time involved in just identifying whether it makes sense or not, and some where there's hardly any due diligence. I would say that have enough due diligence where you have you start lean, but at the same time you have a vision in mind that you want to do. Do a due diligence on the platform side, which platform you're taking. And it's not essential that you stick to a platform also. You might do certain application and certain organization or on the global perspective, the leading organization we have seen, there has been a strategy of multiple platform adoption where one platform caters to niche or maybe complex application which might be expensive, and then they have a challenger which does your applications which are small process automation applications. So you benefit from both cost and the complexity as well. On that side, what we see is there are two kind of adopters. Primarily, what we see is there is, of course, there is implementers, which is someone like us, Nagarro. There are adopters, which are the enterprises who are doing application, and then there are providers, which are the low-code platform providers. Now, from the adopters perspective, we have, let's say, either they're doing one-off applications, which is quite complex or a huge applications, and that is quite surprising that we are able to do that. Of course, in a pro-coder way, it's not a citizen development world in that sense as of now, but and then you have a whole program running where you have 50, 60 applications developed. That's where I was talking about your, improving your bottom line. You do all your applications, make your digital, make yourself digital. With this pandemic, I think everyone has realized that that's where you have to go. So start lean and have a vision in mind. Think about what is your application, what is the lighthouse or a application with low risk or high visibility application you want to do or start with your launch team, or you want to sustain and keep doing the applications with. And also it's I would say it's not a magic wand. So keep your expectations in control, but yet again, I think it's something which actually helps, has helped, and we are seeing immense potential in terms of getting the digitalization of your enterprise, at a very rapid pace. So capitalize on it, but with the due diligence.
Great. Thank you, Sachin. Manoj, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so being the last one, I get the least options to actually say. All my fellow panelists have covered most of it. But then let's say, I would say that, it will be that my word would be the last word. So coming into it, I feel that, the biggest thing which you need is the mindset. So if you have, positive mindset towards it, I think you will be able to tackle all the, problems coming across. When I say mindset, it is about making sure that IT people do not think that, we are going to be losing job. Business people do not think that, you are making me technical guy instead of business guy. And at the same time, you are kind of bringing in the, bridge between IT and business, because that has been the key problem in any of the organization that, IT does not talk to business, and business says that IT does not understand my problem. So bridging that gap is something which is important. And how you can do it is by bringing in the mindset, educating everyone, trying to make them understand that, this thing is actually an enabler, not a job snatcher. So it will kind of enable you in order to do certain level of work, which you would be relying on someone else. And at the same time, it will give you more feasibility and flexibility towards getting your goals faster. So the moment you will have that positive set of, approach, I think you'll be able to achieve whatever you wish to achieve within the organization. So I think that change has to come top to bottom. First, it has to be understood at the senior level, and then it has to be cascaded at each layer and made understand to the end developer or any graduate engineer to understand that what it means and how it can be further utilized within organization's benefit. So I feel mindset change is something which I would always emphasize.
Wonderful, wonderful, great summary. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking time and summarizing this. Great discussion. And to your point, Manoj and Naveen, I agree that speed cannot be achieved overnight. If organizations want to be agile and be fast, you have to build that muscle memory to let people understand it's our culture to accept speed, accept experimentation, accept urgency, and behavioral patterns need to change to adopt to speed. And all these technology platforms are helping us go faster, leaner, create better products for end users, the learnings that we have from the experience of all of you and rest of the panel members we had earlier, it will definitely help the new adopters. So thank you so much for coming here, for sharing your experience, knowledge with the rest of the audience. Thank you so much, NASSCOM COE, for facilitating this great cross-pollination of ideas and thoughts. Please continue doing so, and look forward to seeing more and more events like this, possibly in person, to meet everyone in person. So thanks. And Sujata, with this, I will hand over to you, please, for the next session.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing such detailed information on LC&C applications. At this point, my apologies to Mr. Manoj Jagani for missing his introduction. I definitely missed my coffee. For the audience, Mr. Manoj Jagani is the head of RPA tools and Sony India Software Center, and comes with extensive experience in planning strategy and spearheading innovation in cognitive, dynamic, and robotic process automation. Once again, thanking all the panelists and Ms. Amita for sharing their thoughts. It was quite a spellbound session for all of us. The revealing data shared during the panel is enough for all of us to drive home the growing need for low-code, no-code applications. Thank you all. Now moving on to our next session, which is on Innovation Showcase on Intelligent Automation. We have 4 innovators with us today to share their journeys and success stories on using intelligent automation and low-code, no-code application. Without much ado, first up, we have Data Foundry, a company with a vision to bring the power of AI ML to life sciences and healthcare industry for better health outcomes. We have with us Mr. Narasimha Kumar, Chief Product Officer. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Sujata. I managed to join about 20 minutes ago, and it was a delightful panel discussion. So thanks to all the panelists. Would you like me to share my screen, Sujata?
Yeah, so you can share your screen.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, hope everyone can see my screen. I'll just go into the slideshow mode. Okay, so I'm going to take the next 10 minutes to talk about our experiences in powering intelligent automation, and specifically the solution framework that we use. We call it DF for Data Foundry, Digitalize AI. So at the beginning, thanks to NASSCOM COE for this opportunity. So I'm going to skip through some of the initial slides, get directly into the case studies to make it more interesting, and also from a time perspective. Intelligent automation, as we've known, and also I'm assuming the panel discussion so far today must have talked about how they're transforming the business models, CX, personalizing and improving customer experiences, and mainly improving decision-making through data solutions, whether we call it automation, at the same time analytics and so on. And at the end of it is all technologies like AI, ML. And I'm sure also in earlier panel discussions, the eminent speakers would have talked about how data digitalization is kind of the foundational basis for this. But if we think about what is the full potential of digitalization or intelligent automation, these are the kind of challenges. We are having enterprises struggle with legacy systems. It will cost time and resources. There is scaling. That is again a challenge. And in the previous panel discussion, I heard about alignment and awareness, and then a bit of resistance to change the culture aspects. So these are typically the kind of challenges one would find when one embarks upon a journey of intelligent automation or any digital transformation. When we think of how do we go about the digital transformation for this IA, here's a list of some key drivers why people want to do this, and then the expected outcomes. If you look at the drivers, obviously people want to extract value from data assets. The companies are sitting on huge amounts of data assets. We work a lot with life sciences industry, and I can tell you that 60 to 70% of data is either not accessible or not being used for analysis. It's just lying there. It is being used in the transactional side of things for mission critical business processes. But after that, they are unable to tap into that historical data. At the same time, there is an exponential increase in the volume and sources of data. This is across all the major industries that is happening. And obviously, if we want to go for automation, I heard about LC&C discussion earlier, and whether we do it that way or we go to a cloud provider or do it in-house, data integrity and security, the data quality life cycle, how the data is moving through your organization. that is again one of the key drivers for why we want to do a digital transformation. Sorry. So another driver is while people are thinking about these problems, the promise of AI, ML, and other emerging technologies, that's really becoming a really key driver. Obviously, we are reading a lot about the various reports that come through about increase in the spending on AI, ML, and the moonshot projects and so on across industries. The other driver for intelligent automation or digital transformation that drives towards intelligent automation is also the changes in the regulatory framework. Globally, as well as in India, there is an increasing expectation that our enterprises are in control of their data. Enterprises are expected to respond faster to any regulatory expectations in terms of timelines, information compliance, and so on. And finally, process automation, which is a holy grail, like people want to automate, reduce the cost, increase the timelines, and so on. While these are the drivers, the expectations from this kind of a journey are primarily, if we can get to a high level of digital literacy across the enterprise, that's really more than half the battle won. Then the business model innovation is something that the senior leadership is typically interested in. The strategic, from a strategy perspective, the board, the investors, and so on, they look for business model innovations. At the tactical level, you want to really get actionable insights, you want to get competitive intelligence. But if you look at it from a technology business integration perspective, it is more often than not an agility that is expected in technology adoption. One does not want to go for implement a system and it takes 2 to 3 years. One wants to do it as fast as possible. And these days that timeline is getting crunched like anything. So to summarize this whole thing, this is what enterprises are looking for. and industry leaders are exploring thereby unified data management solutions, how to enable a free flow of data. They are looking at systems as interconnected. And by enabling the free flow of data through interconnected systems, how can they drive automation and analytics? So in all of this, it is always data, data, and data. So how do we solve this problem? There are multiple approaches being suggested. At Data Foundry, we have started experimenting, we've started implementing, working with some customers on a journey where they want to move from the as-is situation to eventually a data fabric-based architecture. Here are some data points from Gartner about this. And then there is this slide about the framework that we're using. This is about how do we ingest the data, how do we do the digitization, and how do you build a data warehouse or a data lake. And once the data is structured and curated for business use, I hear a lot of LC&C, but from our perspective, it is about composable applications. It's about event-driven microservices architecture. It is about how do you build functionalities that can work with each other across systems, right? And embedded analytics, deep data exploration, and eventually the self-service data consumption for business users. Instead of a business user going to the IT or to the analytics COE asking for a certain report, the data should be available for self-service consumption in a way that it benefits the business user for the kind of analytics that they want. Okay, so this is just a slide about how we have designed digitalized AI to provide a quicker and assured route to value by building integrators and connectors and by extracting data from unstructured documents and flat files and providing the data as a curated structured repository. This is primarily the solution that we are working with across industries, primarily life sciences, but we've also are having a lot of traction from customers across the industry domains where we are happy to work with. So a few quick case studies, considering the time constraint we have today. This is about clinical data digitalization. It is for a global pharma major. The problem they had internal data, scanned PDFs dating back to the 1990s. These are all documents about clinical trials, research, and so on. That is the internal data source. They also had a lot of external sources that were identified. These were medical literature databases such as PubMed, Embase, and there are 20 to 30 such databases, a whole lot of journals, and so on. So they wanted to mingle the internal data, structure it from scanned PDFs. The external sources, they want that to be pulled and mix the whole data and then create a solution that will then give them insights as well as what are the possible potential automations. And they had identified a certain use cases through us where we worked with them. So we started off, we built an intelligent document processing pipeline for them to digitize the whole internal data. And then we integrated that with the data that was coming from the external sources. We built a quick application called mLiterature AI. It is not no code. It is slightly above low code. Okay, we built it on Azure. mLiterature AI. What it does is it's an application that uses the AI-powered ML models to reduce the manual effort in what they do in the pharma industry. They call it meta-analysis or systematic literature reviews and so on. Like to know, for example, how is my drug comparing to the competitor drug in terms of safety and efficacy? So that's kind of an example of a research question. So normally it takes like more than a month for 2 or 3 people to do that job. But by doing this document processing pipeline and ML models, it resulted in complete automation of data extraction, resulted in 70% time reduction for a literature review product. And over a period, we could get to a 95% accuracy, obviously, which means there are some human intervention as well to ensure it becomes 100%. So that's one way we kind of looked at how enterprises are dealing with this. A similar approach, but an entirely different domain is legal. Where one of our customers, one of the leading law firms in the country, they have this vision, they have this dream of automating most of the work, the legal research that takes hours and hours and a lot of people. They want to automate that. How do we go about it? So they had case files going back. It's a very old law firm, so they had about 40 to 50 years worth cases, mostly scanned PDFs, handwritten notes, once again. So handwriting OCR was also needed in addition to the normal regular OCR of scanned PDF images. Then they had a whole lot of external sources again, similar to what the pharma company had. But this time, the data set is different. Acts, judgments, e-courts, right? And today there is a whole lot of information available from the courts' websites themselves. So how do we put everything together? So this required a lot of legal domain knowledge, data science, and kind of benchmarking against what's happening in other such industries. And how do we make the digital documents readable and so on? So the information that's extracted, we put the intelligent search on top of it. Rather than just doing a Google search for what they want, here they can come and they can specify what is the kind of case that they want to argue for, and it will throw up very intelligently, it will curate and it will throw up information about previous judgments and precedents and so on, so that they can take the right approach in how they want to build their case. So this resulted in a 50% reduction for legal research, and using template-based approach and some RPAs, we were able to create, very quickly things like court orders or affidavits and so on, very fast, press of a few buttons. Obviously, the accuracy was started around 70%, but in the last 6 months, it's kind of grown up to 94% almost, and it is continuing to grow. This is still under stealth mode for this customer. In about a month from now, they're going to launch this in the public domain as a service. The other one, very interesting, is this is how we started off actually, stock market data digitalization. This is Bombay Stock Exchange. They have documents ranging from 1988 onwards. And this data was logged in scanned PDF images again. This time, the complexity was that there were complex tables spread across pages. It's like a stock market ledger. And some cells were merged, some data extended across multiple lines in a table cell. So we had to build an annotation tool for that uses the ML models, and it will, you kind of pump in the documents, and then out comes your output, and the output is exported to well-formatted template-based Excel files. That then there's a team of people who will then validate that, say that, okay, compare it to the source, make any corrections that are required, and then it is ready for analysis of historical stock market data and any recalculations as required. So again, this accuracy, this took almost 9 months to grow from like 60% accuracy when we started to a 95% as we speak today.
Just a heads up, Mr. Kumar, we are running out of time.
Okay, this is my last slide. So I would end with this slide, which is my personal favorite. We are currently working on this. It's for causality assessment. There is a cosmetics customer that we have, one of the leading cosmetics companies in the world. Out of the cases that they get, safety cases, meaning someone has adverse effects by using their cosmetic moisturizer, skin cream, whatever. Right? 98% are non-serious cases, 2% cases are serious that they need to submit to the regulatory agency. So they were wondering, why do we need to invest millions of dollars just to kind of build a big safety platform for 2% of cases? Then they did the whole business case, use case, they did a whole kind of a 3 to 4 month of study analysis. We helped them do that. And finally, they realized that they need to even look into non-serious cases, because the non-serious cases automation will help them by throwing the analysis, the trends and so on, because non-serious case data is directly linked to customer perception, which is linked to brand value and sales. So the insights for the R&D team were what minor change to the formulation can help improve the customer experience or customer perception better. And which demographic in which affiliate, meaning in which country, needs more attention, we can push more of our products there. So it was amazing that something that we started doing for compliance has actually became a big use case for the sales and marketing and the R&D team. Okay, so these are the case studies about DF Digitalize AI, the solution that we have been fortunate enough to implement to some of the customers. I hope it is a very quick session has given you some idea about the kind of work we are doing at Data Foundry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar. Next, we have SandLogic, a full stack enterprise AI company that provides LC&C platforms to develop deep learning applications to run on edge devices. To learn more, let's hear from Mr. Anish, who is a solutions architect and head of product SandLogic. Over to you, Anish.
Thank you. I'm sharing my screen. Hey, thank you, Sujata. So thanks to the Complete Forum here for inviting us to this forum. And it was great hearing from the esteemed panel. And we at SandLogic also do echo the thoughts which was shared today in the forum, right? So it was good to hear everybody. And hi, Anish, I'm heading the products at SandLogic Technologies. SandLogic has been in the market for more than 4 years. The company was started as in a storeroom, right? And now we are at a 40-member team, and then we have our operations running in India and in US. Currently, we are serving PFSI, utilities, logistics, and semiconductor space. So one of the main, let's come to the topic of the day, right? So on the intelligent automation, right? So the quorum has been emphasizing on intelligent automation. Let's understand how intelligent automation became the go-to tech stack for the digital transformation of today, right? So, yeah. So today there are every day in the mid-size customer-facing organizations, right? There are more than 10,000 documents per day which are to be processed. Now, here the challenge is not on the number of documents, but on the varieties of documents which are available in the market to be processed, right? So that's the major challenge. And along with these things, the challenge is not only the number of documents, reason being that whenever there is as soon as there's a change in the template which comes into the picture, the automation fails. All right? Whenever there is a handwritten text comes into the space, right, it fails. Along with that, when there is a vernacular data in the document, or whenever the variety of the document increases, or even when there is a invoices with a dot matrix being available, right? All these cases fail, right? So now for this, the solution what we have created is the low-code, no-code platform for intelligent document processing called Texture, which is mainly powered by AI at its core, right? So now, today's automation is not only on the RPA. So there is so many more components in the new generation technology, right? Which is being, let it be the visual intelligence or the IDP with NLP integrated. So with all the combinations of all this, IA, visual intelligence, NLP, makes the today's intelligent automation the automation, right? So that's where it is. And going to the next. So now with the IDP which we have built so far and which has been utilized by our customers, so now the customer have been using this framework of IDP, and they have been using it for extracting the data from the complex cognitive inputs like GIS maps, CAD files, Accord or W2 forms, or any other forms which are unstructured and with the vernacular data or handwritten data as well. And so after the implementation of IDP platform in their system right now, one of the customer gave a testimony within 1 quarter of implementation that it has accelerated and then given the automation adoption with an impact of 217% in return for the investment what they have made, right? So that's the impact of IDP which has been bringing to the table, right? And now to achieve this, for the IDP to achieve this, there are multiple steps which come into picture. The first is the pre-extraction stage, and then the extraction and the post-extraction which will come into picture. So in each of this, there are pieces of visual intelligence which comes into picture. There are pieces of NLP which comes into picture as well. Okay. So now with these pre-extracted data, what we have, it can be in any types of forms which are Excel, CSV, JSON, XML, and then the REST APIs as well, right? So yeah, the post extraction data, and then with these REST APIs can be created with the multiple connectors which come into picture, which can be later on plugged into the LOB system or customers' custom developed applications, right? So it can be plugged into however they want. So that's the customization which can be done into the platform as well. Okay. So on this particular slide, we are emphasizing on how Texter can be the one fit solution, right, for any of the customer-centric problem statements. So as Texter does not leverage any third-party APIs, okay, meaning we are not using any of the outside OCR systems. So what we have built is completely in-house, and all the OCR models and the ICR models, what we have developed, and the AA models which are coming into picture for training the customer-centric region of interests, right? All these are homegrown, okay? This is where we can give the kind of customization which is required for each of the customer needs. Okay. Also, some of the distinguished features of Texter makes it stand out apart from the out in the market, right? Are the MLOps, which keeps training your AI model on progressive basis to achieve the highest confidence level going forward as well. And then second would be the data reduction. Third is on the template free. Okay. So along with this, I have a small demo as well, which has been planned. So let me quickly go to that. So this is our Texter platform where we have going to showcase on two specific use cases. One is on extraction of data from the customer's region of interest, right? And the second is on the handwritten data or from a form, which is mainly into BFSI sector. In interest of time, I'm just going to run through the video quickly. And so there are, as it is a no-code, low-code platform, we have the features which is required for the user to have view of all the status which is available, and the features like batch processing. It can be plugged into the data can be plugged in from anywhere into the system, right? The connectors for importing the documents can be any of the data storages. And one more is that the input can be from SharePoint, from Google Drive, and so on and so forth. So as you can see here, we have the data being extracted, and then the data validation is also one major important step which comes into the picture, which is the human in the loop, right? So we have the human in the loop as well. So if there is any correction based on the confidence level given by the model, so we are going to have as well. So I'll pause here for a minute. So as you can see, right, so for each field being extracted, we'll be able to understand from where the document or where is the region of interest in the given document, along with the confidence score as well. So if the confidence score is lesser than certain threshold, we'll be able to send you to the human in the loop. Okay. So this is where we have the customization being given, right? So we have the pre-processing steps which are enabled. So there can be a pre-processing steps where the invoices are been scanned in like the legacy documents, right? They have been scanned in a long time, even 10 years ago, right? So there needs to be a AI-based image enhancement model as well, which needs to come into picture. There may be a T-skewing which comes into the picture. So all these are the pre-processing steps which helps in making the extraction quality of the extraction multifoldly increased.
Just a heads up, Anish, you have 1 more minute.
Okay, sure. I'll show you quickly on the other use case where I'm talking, right? So this is on the handwritten document data extraction. So where we are extracting the proof of identity and proof of address of the user in a given specific document. This is the data classification model or the data indexing model which comes into picture. And we are extracting the data based on the customer-centric, the naming convention is based on the user-specific provided. And I'll quickly run through the vernacular data as well. So if there could be cases where for the Indian customer, right, we have the data with vernacular languages or regional languages, which is coming into picture. So I'm showcasing on 3 languages here. So one is the Hindi, Kannada, and Tamil. So we have other languages as well. So wherever whenever the vernacular language comes into picture as well, we'll be able to extract the data out of these as well in the forms provided. Yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Anish. We have next the innovator from Slang Labs, which is an in-app voice assistant company, making app faster, easier, and more accessible. Let's hear from Mr. Madhur Nath, Head of Sales and Marketing. Request you to cover within time, please. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Sujata. Hello, everyone. I'll quickly move to the presentation. Is the presentation visible?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So I'll start with a quick demo. It's around 1 minute and 30 seconds. It just shows how our product works, looks, and feels.
Welcome back. To check flight status, please speak out the flight number.
SG130 tomorrow.
आपकी सूची में अगला आइटम क्या है?
बाले हन्नू।
कई आइटम मिले, इनमें से कौन सा चाहिए?
टैल्क 500 ग्राम।
Whisper Choice Ultra 6-pack 50.
सामान मिला दिया, अगला आइटम।
500 grams of green chilies, 2 kg brinjal, and 2 kg of idli dosa batter.
Added 79.
Cancel my last order.
Canceling your order is requested.
What is your date of birth?
November 4th, 1977.
Would you like to receive updates via WhatsApp?
Sure.
Can someone from the company contact you?
Yep.
Account opened successfully. This item has an active offer for minimum order of 50. Please tell us the quantity to proceed.
50.
Added item.
So what we're offering is basically an in-app voice assistant, which works with multiple languages, prominently spoken in India. It's a highly scalable platform where we intend to add a lot more languages in the coming days. First of all, it's highly accurate because it's pre-built and pre-trained for specific domains and categories. It's multimodal, which means it has a seamless handshake between touch, voice, touch, type, whatever. And it's a low-code platform. It's highly performant, which means we have a kind of sub-second latency during the voice interactions. And it's a full stack solution, which means once you get this, you don't need to add any other solution, to stitch together any other experience. So what it offers out of the box is something which you already saw, briefly in the video, but essentially it covers, these 6 areas. So once definitely, voice search being the predominant use case, especially in e-commerce, which is a core domain on which we have been focused on since over 2 years now. And along with it, of course, adding lists, performing certain quick actions, which are frequently done by the users, conversationally filling voice forms, in vernacular languages or English or whatever. And, also nudging users in a contextual way with voice promotions, and enabling users to discover or move quickly and efficiently across the app using voice navigation. So who really needs this? What we see is, a lot of times we think, voice is just for the tech savvy, but it's actually a lot more like a painkiller or an enabler for 2 more segments. One is, the urban, educated, but senior citizens who are English speaking, but not digital savvy. They could definitely use a natural interface like voice. And then you have, another 400, probably 400, 500 million users who are, not metro, rural, and, vernacular language speakers for whom English itself is a basic challenge. And beyond that, they also need to learn or understand the visual interface or language of the apps economy that we see today. So, from a business point of view, what exactly does voice do? Each of these features, enables a certain advantage to the existing e-commerce apps. So it improves product discoverability, feature discoverability, reduces drop-offs, increases share of wallet, and of course, it also helps us gain more understanding of what are the users searching and what's their real intent. Unlike a touch or a type interface where it's quite limited to what we can capture. So why do we need slang? What you see on the left 2/3 of the screen is essentially what any company or any brand will have to do if they want to build the kind of voice experience which I demoed in 100 seconds, right? To build that, it might probably take anywhere between 12 to 24 months, tons of money, and many years or many months of engineering effort. And there's a whole lot of evolution that happens as the build. Now we have given the shortcut path in a low code manner. Just consume a simple SDK of 500 KB size, and you can get a sophisticated and smart voice assistant experience inside your existing e-commerce app, whether it's Android, iOS, web, anything. And you can get started in a matter of couple of weeks. So that's the amount of time, money, and effort and the risk that we have cut down by providing this new platform. So in a nutshell, why slang? One, we have done benchmark studies to assess how good we are, and we saw that we are 46% more accurate than Google Voice Search in Indian e-commerce SKUs when we look at slang voice search versus Google Voice Search. And it works perfectly well even in noisy environments like a market or in a store environment. And we have seen that we have been able to assess the voice intent and the interactions very accurately, even when there are some 40 different kinds of accents and dialects. So that's the kind of accuracy that we are bringing to the voice, which has still now been the major hurdle or a barrier for most people to adopt voice. They wonder, will it really work? Does it really understand? So we are working with some of the top companies and brands across retail, travel, investment, retail investment, or even Novio healthcare players like SugarFit. So our goal is to touch the next billion users, democratize the access to voice technology for anyone without wondering will it work, or will it cost us too much, without having to worry about those things. Any brand, any app. So we are even working with startups who have just completed their product building, but we are also working with some of the giants in the industry. So that's the level of democratization that we have brought in adoption of voice technology. I'll quickly run through a few data points that we have captured, while working with Udan, where we did a very simple or a limited rollout. It's around only 10% of their user base were exposed to the slang voice assistant feature. And it was not even marketed, right? It was just made available, and a simple push saying that voice is available and there's an onboarding. So after that, without doing too much marketing, advertising, whatever, how did the users, basically who are the shopkeepers across India, how have they adopted voice, or how are they looking at voice is what we try to see. And we saw a steady increase in the discovery and usage of voice over the 6 months duration that we ran this pilot. And we saw on an average it has around 11% adoption. So while 11% as a number looks quite small, but for a new feature, this kind of adoption is significant, where there is no additional marketing or added support from the app side, right? This might look very colorful and a bit confusing, but I'll just quickly summarize what this is. The green bar represents, how many percentage of people wanted to use voice and ended up using voice successfully. red bar is basically representing, how many people activated voice but did not really intend to activate voice. So we see that consistently around 20% people are actually not interested in using voice, even though they have activated the voice feature. So the orange bar is the small or the thin percentage who tried to use voice but voice failed for them, right? So you can see it's like hardly like half to 1% kind of a thing towards the end of this duration. So that also shows how the models have been maturing over time, right? Also, this basically this is something what I was actually showing in the previous, but in a more succinct way across the entire data point, across the entire duration. So essentially what this signifies is there is a high adoption among the retailers who discovered voice and used it once, right? So that means voice is something that people like to use and want to use, right? So, and we also, try to see for the latest month we just try to see, what are the top 100 occurrences, and some interesting stuff came out. So while the app itself can exist only in English language, our voice can be used in multiple languages, and the app doesn't have to do anything to manage that, right? And user can select which language they want in enabling voice, and that's how this will work. And we saw that out of the top 10 utterances, 4 were actually Hindi words, right? And 2 were actually used in Hindi language settings, which means at least that many people are realizing they want to use Hindi or chosen Hindi and activated the voice in Hindi. And then we saw Hindi words being spoken in English, but it's still being recognized accurately, and it's being processed. Though the language setting for voice is English.
Madhu, I think we are over time.
Yes.
Please wrap up.
Yeah, I think it's almost done. So in summary, so this is just a quick distribution. Left side, how the English speaking speakers are there. Right side, Hindi speaking speakers are distributed. So it's roughly a 75-25 adoption that we have seen. So in summary, I'll just let you read the points, but the bottom line is the adoption, retention, and a preference for voice has been clearly seen in Udaan app across thousands of retailers and people from all over India. It's geographically widely distributed, and it's beyond that mere tier 1 metros and tier 2. It's primarily in tier 2 and tier 3 towns that we are seeing this. So this clearly shows that there is a case for voice, and the next 500 million users will find voice as the most natural interface in their vernacular languages to interact with digital apps. So that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have ToolJet, which is an open source low-code, no-code platform for building and deploying internet tools with minimal engineering. Let's hear from Mr. Navneet, founder ToolJet. Over to you, Navneet, requesting you to adhere to the time. Thanks.
Hey everyone, and first of all, thanks Sujata for having me here and for the intro. Let me share my screen quickly. 1 second. So I am Navneet. I am the founder of ToolJet. ToolJet is an open source low-code platform for building internal tools. So every organization requires internal tools, and typically those internal tools are built by the engineering team. And in most cases, the engineering team is not really interested in working on internal tools. They want to work on the core business use cases. So building an internal tool by the engineering team is very expensive, and it also takes a lot of time if you are going the traditional way. For example, the engineering team will have to select a platform for building internal tools, then they have to set up a framework, then they have to deploy it, etc. It's a very long process. So that's where we come in. The ToolJet is a low-code application builder. So we have an application builder which is more like a drag and drop interface. It has more than 35 UI components. So you can drag and drop all these UI components to build your front end. Then you can connect it with your data sources such as databases, cloud storages, and tools like Airtable, Google Sheets, and Notion. So we provide a way to build the UI in a low-code, no-code way. And we also provide a way to query the data which is stored on all these data sources in a low-code, no-code way. So Byju's has been using ToolJet for the last 8 months. So they have built more than 70 applications, and they were able to build all these applications with a team of just 2 developers. So they initially started with around 40 users, and right now they have scaled to multiple departments and more than 300 users. So their use case was to build applications that can be used by their ground staff at their offline learning centers. And from that use cases, they have expanded to multiple departments and multiple other use cases. This is how the product looks like. The concepts are very simple. You can drag and drop different elements from the right sidebar to the canvas. Then you can resize it, you can position it, you can connect it to the data queries, and then you can display data, you can make changes to the data, etc. So Tooljet can be used for building end-to-end applications. It can also be used for building dashboards and other analytical tools. So Tooljet is designed to coexist with your existing architecture. Let's say you have a lot of microservices, or even if you are event-driven, Tooljet can work within your infrastructure. It can communicate with all your other microservices, and it doesn't need any access to internet. Like your data will never leave your premise, and all the data security and privacy concerns are kind of resolved. So we also have team collaboration features that are inbuilt in Tooljet. For example, you can tag your coworkers and you can add a comment, you can resolve different conversations, etc. We also support multiple users editing the same application at the same time. We have been used by large enterprises, and we have all the features such as single sign-on, audit trails, and multiple deployment options. Those are required by the large companies. Finally, we are open source and we are extensible. So we have more than close to 200 contributors for our GitHub repository. We also have more than 11,000 stars for our GitHub repository. So we are just 1 year old, and over this time, we have seen a lot of adoption in terms of open source metrics. A lot of companies are using Tooljet for all their internal use cases. That's a very simple and short presentation. Happy to answer if you have any questions.
Thank you, Navneet. We'll be taking the Q&A later on. And thanks to all the innovators for sharing this with our audience. Now it's time to move on to the objective of our event, that is the open innovation, where we have 3 organizations who will share the details on the use case they want to get solved by innovators. To begin with, let me invite Mr. Darshan Milgiri, Innovation Lead, Societe Generale Global Solution Center, to share the use case details. Over to you, sir.
Hey, hello, Sujata. Hello, everybody. So I was expecting that there would be a presentation from, is Arjun on the call? Sujata?
No, sorry, you needed help with?
So because we don't have a presentation as such, because it was mentioned that it will be presented by Arjun over to us. So that's where we don't have any use case as such into present, but I can just run you through that what exactly we are looking for, if that makes a sense.
Yeah, so that'll be great. Yeah.
Okay, so ideally what we were looking at was, we come from the background wherein when I started my career, it was somewhere from L1 and L2. And we did a lot of redundant activities wherein we were reading the emails, then we were trying to understand what is an issue. And then we were trying to understand issues in different platforms, either through email or through chats or through certain chatbots or probably over the call. So the next stage for us was to see that how we could go and create an incident and then follow up on those activities to close an incident. And this has been the procedure for mostly many people. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. So this has been mostly the case for most of the enterprises wherein they are trying to spend the time on this incident management process, wherein they're really looking forward to extract the information from the emails, and based on their understanding, they are opening up any of the ticketing tools in our organization. Currently, we are moving towards Unity as a tool, which will be the incident management tool. And that's where we are going ahead and creating an incident. So we wanted to automate this entire end-to-end process. So the first part was to see that how do we extract the information from the different sources which we have, and with that, what are the relevant inferences which we could generate and then put up onto the and give it to the RP as a tool which could go ahead and create an incident for us. So this is overall our problem statement. So if there are any queries, I'm open for that, and I'll be looking forward for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Darshan. for sharing that. Next, we have Mr. Mayank Mehrotra, Head Supply Chain Transformation, Jubilant Foodworks. Over to you, sir.
Thanks, Sujata. If you could bring up the document that we had shared.
Yeah, I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, yes. So to give you a quick context, Jubilant Foodworks is the leader in food services industry, and we are the master franchisee holders for Domino's Pizza. And Jubilant prides itself in being, very technology driven. So we are multi-brand, sort of a food technology powerhouse. We are present in India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and expanding into other markets as well. So as we grow, we are facing, various challenges, and one of the problem statements links to sourcing and procurement, which we have highlighted for automation. So what we are looking for in very simple terms is a digital assistant for our procurement team. And the key functionalities that we are looking for from this tool is essentially how do we compare quotes which are submitted by various vendors, right? And quotes, when I say, it doesn't only include the prices that they have quoted, but also various other terms and conditions, be it the Incoterms, be it the warranties, be it the past performance of those vendors, and also ability to compare those prices against what is happening in the market, right? So if I talk about the various things that the buyers do, they look at the internal data sources, which is around what are the previous last year's quotes that the vendor submitted, right? That is one example. And they also look at external data sources, right? What is the market feedback on a vendor? What is the financial position of a vendor? What are the various news prevalent in the market with respect to a particular commodity that we are buying, whether there is a bullish sentiment, bearish sentiment, etc. So is this the right price, right time to, buy, take a buying decision, right? And the prices that are quoted, do they make sense? So we are looking for a dashboard which can present all these information from internal, external, structured, unstructured data sources readily to the buyer, and also have the ability to present on-demand analytics. What a buyer may say, like, for example, tell me the price trend of this vendor for last 5 years at which I have bought, right? And that should be able to pop up on the screen in form of a chart. So that, in a summary, is what we are looking for. And there is a detailed document which sort of details the requirement. I have my colleague Sandeep as well on this call. Sandeep, do you want to add anything else very quickly? Sandeep, Anuj, are you there?
Yeah, so hi, mate. This is Sanjeev actually, so I was thinking that you were addressing it to somebody else. Anyway.
Oh, my bad. Yeah.
So basically, I think you have covered it mostly most of the aspects which I think I shared with you. Most of them are being covered already, and the idea is that this data should be helping the buyer take a decision, an informed decision, rather than relying on totally unstructured data, which might actually be not very helpful in taking a right decision. So if we get these inputs from the data sources which are internal, and of course some of them will be external, it will be very good help, and it will help us to take the right decision and an informed decision. So I think you have covered most of the points. We just run through if you have in case missed out on any, which I don't think so. Yes. All right. So some of the terms, for example, which which the vendor has got has offered in case of price lock-in, warranties, seasonalities of the product, the validity of the prices which the vendor offers. All right, and the market share of that particular vendor, if there are any feedbacks available from the vendor's existing customers. So all those things will actually, that is the only thing I can think of additionally. Rest, I think you have covered it well, Matt.
Sure. Thanks, Sanjeev. So essentially, the idea is that not only quotes, but also various other business, or functional parameters which the buyers consider when they look at holistically a total cost of ownership, experience, qualitative experience of working with a particular vendor, and their past performance, right? That's what. And we can share, if at all it is required, we can share a detailed list of factors and parameters. But that's the sum and substance of our requirement.
Thank you, Mayank and Sanjeev. Next, we have Mr. Devjoy Chaudhary, Vice President Application and Transformation from DTDC, to share the details of the use case. Over to you.
Yeah, Sujata, thank you for the introduction. Sujata, would you be able to present the document? Because I don't think we have shared a PPT with you.
I hope you can see the screen.
Yeah, it's good. So thank you, Sujata, and thank you all for being on the call. So I represent DTDC. I basically head the entire IT and the applications and solutions for DTDC across all our business lines and groups. And I think everybody would be familiar with the name DTDC. So we are we are an old company, about 30 plus years old. We started off as a pure play express service provider. And then over time, of course, we have gotten into various businesses, which includes larger packages called LTL. We are into various kind of e-commerce, B2C, B2B, etc. And we are, I think right now, one of the largest, possibly the second largest after India Post in terms of our delivery and coverage of services. We have we cover the largest number of PIN codes, and we also do transaction across 200 odd countries, right? So as a organization, just give me a second, please. Yeah, so as an organization, we have a very diverse network. We are a franchisee-based logistics and delivery organization.
Mr. Devjoy, can you hear us?
Yeah, hi. So am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, Sujata. For whatever reason, my connection dropped. The problem statement, I'll get very quickly to it. Since we are doing pickups and delivery even the remotest areas, and in the rural areas also, some far off locations, we have a problem, I think, which is perennial problem in India, and a lot of organizations would be facing it, is that what we do is when our biker or our rider goes and picks up a parcel for delivery, obviously the name and addresses, the telephone contact number and everything else is written on the parcel, right? So we all have experience with that. And what he has to do is he has to input that information, create what we call a sort of a manifest kind of document, and he will then paste it on the parcel, and then he brings the parcel with him. Like in India, a lot of places, these names are long, they are handwritten, they are in multiple languages. So we will ignore the language problem for now. But what we would like, the challenge that we are suggesting, and we have been looking at solving this for a while, is that, and we currently do this to a certain extent, is that the biker will take a picture of the sender and the receiver's address, which are often handwritten. In many cases, in some cases, they are also typed. And then we would like this to be OCR'd and then converted, extract the relevant fields. So we would want the address, the contact, and the other details. We would want this model, if it is an AI-based model, to progressively get better over time. We know that to some extent it can be done on the cloud. But of course, we are looking for a solution, and that may include the cloud. But we are looking for, through this challenge, for a solution which is actually very highly scalable. When I say highly scalable, it means if you can imagine a situation where about 1 million of this are happening on a day-to-day basis, right? Million people, million transactions, billion addresses, sender and receiver addresses are getting snapshotted, possibly getting uploaded to some servers. So some of these files can get to be very large, between 50 and 10 MB. Sending them over the network for a biker who is in a rush is not always a solution. But we are definitely, as a part of this challenge, we are open to that kind of a solution, which will lead to sort of a batch processing of this at the back end, and then with the tagging and all, we bring the solution up in the front and link it to the consignment. The ideal solution that we would want is actually to extract that information on the fly in the biker's handheld itself and fill in the fields where he also has the option of correcting and the information. And of course, there is once we have the data, we can do various other things with it, including attaching it to geo coordinates, which we can do. So all these details. So that's basically the essence of the challenge. There is a lot more detail and also sample cases that we have provided in the document itself. And we are not looking for the best solution. So a best solution in the sense, anything maybe upwards of 70–80% would be good enough for us. For typed documents, possibly above 90. But if so I understand that this is not an easy task, but being that India being now becoming a hub of interesting innovation, this is a unique Indian challenge for all the relevant companies to solve. And I saw, I think maybe 1 or 2 presentations also, which sort of seem to address that to a certain extent. So Sujata, could you move to the next slide, please? I see there are 4 of them, but 3 more, right?
No, so this is the only slide.
This is the only one? Okay. So that in essence is the challenge. Of course, you will get a lot more details on the document, and I will be happy to answer any queries that anybody may have on this now, or of course later also.
Thank you, Mr. Devijoy, for sharing the details. I'd like to thank all the representatives for sharing all the details, and I'm sure the details which are there on our website will also provide clarity on expectations to the solution providers. Now, to deliver the closing remarks, I would like to call upon Mr. Navratan Kataria, Director Innovation, Entrepreneurship, IoT and AI, and Bengaluru Center Head. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. It's said that automation is good so long as you know exactly where to put the machine. That was told by Eliyahu Moshe Goldstrat, an Israeli business management guru. And here is the innovation challenge that we are doing for the sole purpose of enterprises to guide them on that particular machine. Our amazing speakers spoke all the day about the combination of AI, intelligent automation, the companies which can make them reach heights in their automation journey. With the help of intelligent automation, organizations can gain unparalleled efficiency and empower their operations with the fast-paced end-to-end automated processes. Intelligent automation, as you would have heard, is no longer limited to just one sector. It gains applications in almost every sector, in the retail to FMCGs, to the healthcare, to the finance, to telecommunication, name anything, and it does that. Companies like Yokogawa and every company represented here in the panels that you heard have shown the need, the ease through of no or low code and benefits of automation. You heard them today from experts like Naveen Kashyap. I don't know how they how he files a patent every year, apart from the routine tasks that he does. And this is the reason why I say that you have today enough ammunition to tell your management why you cannot afford to miss this important area of automation. We at COE, the company that the program that I represent from NASCOM, will be very happy to help you in that journey. Special thanks to all our 3 use case sponsors, the DTDC Jubilant and the Society General, for nominating these use cases. And we invite all the innovators and the startups to apply here and be able to get paid POCs in return as winners. What we would like to do is also announce that we would be doing the next innovation challenge, open challenge, in Metaverse, the next buzzword. And with that, I would like to close this event and hope to get a lot more audience interested in both providing the use cases from the industry as well as the startups who will be applying for these use cases to be solved. Thanks a lot. Over to you, Sujata, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Once again, dear audience, thank you for your participation in this session and making this a success. We hope to see you soon. Have a good evening. Thank you.